What up, guys? Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than I've usually been doing on this channel, and I'm going to be going through a major story event from DC's 2018's issue and run of the Justice League, where the Justice League team was against Perpetua and the Legion of Doom. And I'm going to go throughout the entire story event because they had some pretty interesting stuff happening in there. A lot of cosmological stuff, a lot of, pretty impressive feats. And one big feat in particular that I mentioned in my last video where Superman, one-shotted the World Forger, which is one of those things that I've debated and talked about quite a bit on this channel. And I've had a lot of back and forth with you guys. A lot of people have really disagreed with me on my take on that. And I think that's one of my more controversial takes on this channel that I've ever had. So I felt like it was, important for me to see what happened in the entire story event that transpired prior to that and what happened afterwards, because that wasn't the end of the story event. That was actually somewhere around the middle of the story event itself. So I will be going throughout the entire story event where the Justice League versus the Legion of Doom and them trying to free and awaken Perpetua throughout the entire story. And there's some pretty interesting feats that we have here and some unique stuff that we get introduced with the cosmology. So before I get into this, I do want to give a big shout out to a new subscriber by the name of Bilal Umasi. And I also want to say that this is going to be, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. One, the story event started off actually in, it was Justice League's No Justice in 2018. It was a 4-issue run series. So it started off there, then it transitioned into the Justice League 2018 series. It started from Annual 1 and then transitioned to issue 1 all the way to issue 49. So if you guys want to check this out all by yourself, you guys, I'll suggest you to go check out Justice League No Justice from 2018 issues 1 through 4, then Justice League 2018 from Annual 1, and then starting after that to issue 1 all the way to issue 49 if you want to get the full scope of the story and what happened and what led up to the fight with Superman taking down the World Forger. And if you want to know that one specifically, that was issue 25 of the Justice League 2018 series. Now, there's also, I also want to mention that I'm not going to go through every event that transpired throughout this event. I'm just going to go through some of the more major stuff that happened and mainly explain more about, what we got revealed about the cosmology, more about some of the characters like Perpetua, the World Forger, the Monitor, and all this other stuff that we learned, and the power scaling from this event, because that's the whole point of making these videos, is to go through the power scalings and the cosmology and basically explain what happened a bit in it. If you want to check out a full scope, detailed, explanation on what happened, you can check out other comic book channels that have done full breakdowns of the entire issue run. I'm not going to be doing that. I will be covering quite a bit, but I won't cover everything like those bigger channels do. So without any further ado, let's get into what happened in this event. Now, the story event actually happens right after the Dark Multiverse story event, where they had, the Batman Who Laughs working with Barbados fighting against the Justice League. That event, the Black Metal event, ended. And in the end of that event, something happened where they ended up apparently destroying the Source Wall somehow. I don't know. I'll probably cover that series at some point in the future. But for right now, just know that this is right after that. And this leads into a lot of big story events and story plots right after that event, because they destroyed the Source Wall, and by doing so they did mess up the cosmology quite a bit, as we see as the whole Green Lantern Corps pulls up to where the Source Wall is, and we have John Stewart and Hal Jordan talking to each other. John Stewart says, simply put, a cosmic ocean of destruction and destructive energy. Everything we send in disintegrates. Our universe is like a leaking raft on a toxic sea. John, we didn't mean to do this. We had to do whatever we could to stop the Dark Multiverse. Comparatively, this is just a crack in the wall. It can't be that bad. So like I said, they destroyed the source wall in the last story event. I don't know what led to that and how they did that, but when I cover it, I think that's going to be very important because that was a big problem in this story event. Because once when they destroyed the source wall, like John Stewart said, the energy was leaking from it because the whole point of the source wall is supposed to be a barrier protecting all the universes in the multiverse and even the other dimensions from the what is considered the overvoid, which is pretty dangerous, and the energy is leaking from there and is causing a lot of problems to the universe and is damaging it. Like John Stewart said, it's basically destroying it. But Hal Jordan said they had no other option. After this, we have after as they try to breach up the source wall itself, we have Brainiac coming out, and Brainiac starts to fight the Justice League. They try to fight him, but he didn't come there to fight. He just came there to... he did start off fighting them, but it was just so he can introduce himself because he knew that these guys were going to pretty much attack him or wouldn't listen to him unless he, did something drastic. And he did this to pretty much warn them about 4 cosmic gods that have come out of the source wall. Since they destroyed the source wall, there's these 4 ancient godly beings. As he goes on to say, the oldest beings in the universe share a myth older than civilization, older than language. A myth, 4 brothers and possibly powerful cosmic gods, each embodying one of the fundamental energies of the sentient life. They were called the Omega Titans. Entropy, wisdom, wonder, and mystery. Each believed the core energy to be the dominant power of intellectual life. To prove themselves right, they planted seeds of cosmic energy in world after world. And the end of the universe, the story said that they would return to the civilizations that grew over the eons when each energy was supreme, and then the winning brother would reabsorb the world. The dying universe is a garden to be eaten by its overseers. And it's no children's story. The brothers arrived on my home planet, and you can tell the time yesterday, one about to consume my world. The source wall breaking set the beings in motion, breaking them back from the furthest reaches of the universe. Johns, they are ready to begin the systematic destruction of all sentient worlds until nothing is left. It is possible to stop them when we have everything as we all riled up around the idea of justice, the symbol for which is the scale. We need to restore balance to the 4 energies. Thus I have resided in you 4 teams, each embodying the energy of the Mega Titan in this configuration. So what he's saying is that these 4 titans, these 4 cosmic gods, these ancient ones before all of the universe and civilization that were formed from and within the source wall. Since the source wall was destroyed, they've been released. Their plan was they planted seeds in certain planets so they would grow, and as they growed and matured, they would devour the planets. Kind of like the Celestials in the MCU, where they did with the Earth and stuff. So they devoured them to get energy, and they're doing this because the source wall was destroyed. And these 4, Omega Titans are entropy, wisdom, wonder, and mystery. So they're more like conceptual gods where they're the concepts of those. So the more you believe in that, the more those ideas are there, the more power they gain from it. And as he's going on, Brainiac is stating that, they planted the seeds there, they're going to devour the planets. One of those planets is my home planet, so I'm trying to save it, obviously. So they're going to devour it and eat it. And when they eat these planets, they're going to gain enough energy and power to pretty much destroy the universe. And they're destroying the universe because of the Justice League. Since they broke the source wall, they kind of ruined the cosmic balance. And to put the cosmic balance back into its natural order, they have to remove this universe to recreate again to make a more stabilized universe. So they're pretty much destroying to recreate. And the whole destruction and recreation thing, like I said, they need to eat those planets to do so. But also the fact that, what's the thing called? The reason why they're specifically destroying this universe, and some of you guys will be saying, well, if they're going to restart everything in the, source wall being destroyed, and wouldn't this affect all the multiverse as a whole? And that is true, but like I explained before, if you guys know anything about the DC cosmology, there's one thing really important about the DC cosmology, and that is the Prime Universe. The Prime Universe pretty much spammed out all the other universes in the multiverse, so they're all connected or interconnected to the prime universe. And if the prime universe is destroyed, then the multiverse is destroyed. So technically, these four gods don't have to go through every different universe to wipe them all out simultaneously. All they have to do is pretty much wipe out the prime universe, which all the other universes are connected to. And once when they wipe that out, the entire multiverse will go along with it. And then they'll just have to recreate the prime universe in a new image, and then it'll recreate the entire multiverse based off of that. So Brainiac was like, we can't beat them. They're too powerful. We need to find a way to stop them and save my home planet. But as they went there, he ended up getting destroyed. They blew his brain out. And then the Justice League was trying to find out any way to stop these guys, which they did come up with a pretty crazy idea on how to stop them. They were trying to search for the seed that was in these planets. Brainiac's planet, sadly, at that point was devoured, so they kind of failed at their mission on protecting his planet. But Brainiac, before he died, he was kind of manipulating them. He tricked them to do it so he could conquer his own planet because his people don't like him. And they found this out when they met his son, who was Brainiac 2.0, and he explained that he was playing them, that he actually planted the seed. The seed was already planted on Earth, but he basically sent a signal that when he dies and stuff, and if the planet gets destroyed, that these four gods would go to Earth and then devour Earth. And this is how he got them to help him out. But as the Justice League tried to stop them, they found the seed that was within the Earth. They took it out, and as they took it out, they had Hal Jordan fired at one of the gods to fire at him so they could devour it. They went on to say, you're not wrong. How that seed stays on Earth, all four Titans are coming to feed on it. But if we were to fire it into Entropy Titan, they'll turn on their brother and eat him instead. After feeding on the immense energy inside of Entropy, I'm hoping the Mega Titans aren't going to be hungry for planets for at least a millennium. This is insane, relative, right? And then he pretty much shot it at him, and they pretty much did what they were planning to do. They proceeded to devour their own brother, the Entropy. There was four of them. They devoured one of them, and that was enough to satiate their hunger, but it also kind of somewhat destroyed them. But it did, though this was not a really good idea because they already messed up the entire, universe and the multiverse by destroying the Source Wall in the last event. And these guys came out of the Source Wall to basically fix the damages since they're the guardians of the Source Wall. And their job was to, yes, destroy everything, but it was to recreate it because it was unstable. And it was stated that this universe, since it's unstable and this energy is leaking, it was dying. So it was going to die within a few months to a year anyway. So they were going to wipe it out and just, fix it. And the reason why they were going to wipe it out and fix it instead of just letting it die out was due to the fact that they didn't enact on it right away. Perpetua would probably break out of the Source Wall because she was in prison in there, so they had to act upon it quick. But by them doing this, it destroyed one of them, and it got rid of them, so their plan was over, so they couldn't, go on their mission on what they were supposed to do, so it kind of pretty much screwed that up. But after this happened, the Source Wall was acting up again, and they found out a way to fix it. They found out that those four Cosmic Titans, their plan, they could have actually used them to have enough of their energy and put them back into the wall to seal it up. So since they're not only the guardians to, deal with whatever problem happens when the Source Wall is destroyed, which would affect the universe and the multiverse, but they would also were made to basically breach up the Source Wall back together by using their energy that they would have consumed when they came out back into the wall. But they did end up destroying one of them, which kind of ruined that, and like I said, it was a big problem. So the Justice League themselves, they go directly to the Source Wall to figure out what they could do, and as they are approaching, there's some pretty interesting information. It goes on to say they call it the Promethean Galaxy, though it is not truly a galaxy. It's a place of gods and giants as old as creation, and home to the furthest finite border of reality itself. So this is important because they're explaining that this place is called the Promethean Galaxy, but it's not really a galaxy. It's just the outer edge, complete edge of the universe or reality itself. And that's where the Source Wall lies, and that's where the oldest ancient gods and stuff came from, because that's where the entire universe originated from. And this is very important because I've heard a lot of people say that the DC universe is infinite and the multiverses sizes are also infinite, but I've always said that that's not the case because of the source wall, and I've had somebody disagreeing with me, but clearly here they themselves also stated that it's the home of the furthest finite border of reality. So they themselves stated it was finite. So no, the DC universe is not infinite. It is very large. We don't know to what extent. Some, like with Death Battle, they put in some insanely high like number to non-decillion light years. I don't know if that's true because their math is a little wonky, but we do know that it's not infinite, as it was stated that the source wall is pretty much the end of there. And as they arrived there, the Green Lantern Corps, they patched it up as best as they could, but the source wall was still gonna pretty much in a critical condition. It was gonna end up blowing up. So the only way they could, fix it is they had to bring those gods to fully emerge into the wall to completely repair it. As they come, they say, before the first sentient beings formed, the first thought, the source wall stood complete and infinite, a protective shell around creation and against seeking answers that may lie beyond. Over billions of years, any being who tried to pass through the wall became part of it, very fiber and joining in innumerable armies, giants, and who's possessing cosmic stuff. For months, a Green Lantern Corps contingency and stuff. The universe would fall with it. So basically, they're just explaining once again that this is the origination for the entire universe and the multiverse as a whole. It's the oldest place. It's pretty much infinite, this one, and it's blocking out the other area, which, like I said, was the Overvoid, which they explain a little bit later themselves. They don't go really fully in depth with what the Overvoid is, but they just explain that it's dangerous and this was meant to keep that out and protect against it. But it's very ancient and stuff. As they go on, they bring the god there, and they have this hero that most of you guys probably never heard of. His name is Starman, and he's actually pretty important to the story because he has something that's very unique. As he arrives, he says the energy flowing through him is the totality of power in the universe. All of its fundamental forces exist in a spectrum inside of him. He has never felt more sure of anything in his life than he's already started to feel the gift. So what is happening? So Starman, apparently he has the totality of the universe, so he's interconnected to not only the universe but the multiverse. Because he has this power called totality, which is interconnected to all that. So he isn't his powers are unique. They're pretty interesting. They aren't as well defined. You would assume that means that he has power rivaling universal levels and stuff, but not really. He's just interconnected to it so he can understand and hear the universe and what it needs. And what it needs right now is the gods to assimilate into the source wall itself to repair it, as he could sense it because he's interconnected with the universe itself. And then we see later on as he's talking to Hawkgirl, because she's very also important in this story event, and she's necessary for fixing the source wall since they got rid of one of the other gods. He went on to say that I have to say, you being a little hostile, but I hope I really can't blame you. It's a little bit of a process. You've been told that the totality contains a being that helped create the multiverse, and that source wall was created to imprison that being. You know your wings are mapped to a higher plane of existence, and they have something to do with the totality. So he basically goes on to explain that to her that, look, there's quite a bit of stuff. One, this totality, it contains all the it contains the energy of the being that created the multiverse. So Perpetua, she created, and then she kind of went rogue. And since she went rogue, her sons, which were the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger, basically trapped her into the source wall. So her power, she used her power of totality to create the multiverse, and then that same power is what is the source wall gets its energy and essence from, and that's what keeps her imprisoned in there anyway. And he stated that power is not only within the source wall, but it's also within him and within Hawkgirl's wings, because she got metal wings with the energy of the totality itself. So that's why she's very necessary in this whole big story event, both of them, because they're interconnected to the energy source of the source wall, which is also interconnected to Perpetua, who created the multiverse itself. And the wings, like he said, were maps to a higher plane of existence. We do get explained later on, since it's the totality in the higher plane of existence, it's the plane and dimension where Perpetua and her sons came from, so the sixth dimension. So we get that explained a little bit later on. It pretty much is a plane map for the sixth dimension and what happens. And then he goes on to explain the importance. He says the source wall was a protective bubble between them and the void, a shield meant to guard them, but the shield was punctured when we battled with Barbados and the minions of the Dark Multiverse. That called forth the Omega Titans. From the slumber, they were the multiverse's first line of defense. The goal was to find a handful of worlds ripe enough with their representative energies that they were built and channeled to absorb the energy, destroying a small handful of worlds to save many. And together they were meant to seal the wall. Brainiac made a miscalculation when he pulled off the teams together there. So he goes on to explain more so what is their purpose and what happened. He says since we destroyed the source wall, it was basically protecting us from the void, and the void is very dangerous. It's kind of like unstable energy. So when it comes in there, it kind of pretty much destroys the positive matter and the universe itself and the multiverse. So he said when we were fighting against Barbados, we had no other option. We ended up destroying it. It brought them out of there, and it got them to enact their plans, which devoured specific worlds that had these seeds. By devouring them, they would gain enough power to go back into the source wall and be able to fully breach it up. But the Justice League kind of fucked it up because of Brainiac miscalculating, and because since they did that, they lost one of the big key titans that they needed for the source wall to be fixed. So that's why they have Hawkgirl there, because her wings, since they're made out of the totality energy, she's going to basically be the replacement for one of the gods. So yeah, it's kind of fucked up, but they did it to themselves. So she's there to be the fourth member with them to assimilate into the source wall, and by assimilating with her totality wings, it'll basically seal it and branch it off from the damage that they did. He goes on to say the Entropy Titan was killed on Earth, but I can channel its energy through your wings. With other Titans in place, we can heal the hole in the seal and hidden energies again. I've already discussed this with the rest of the league. So he goes on to, like I said, say that since they lost the Entropy Titan, which was important to it, they do have another way. They have her doing it, and since they're both connected to the totality, which is, like I said, connected to the source wall, all he has to do is draw out that energy from his body, supercharge her wings, and then once they're supercharged, she can go into it and basically seal it off and replace him and his job. But as this is happening, Brainiac shows up and he starts attacking the Justice League. He shows up with Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor doesn't want this to happen. He wants the source wall to be destroyed because he wants to release Perpetua, because he knows that there's somebody inside there that's very powerful and that could really give him insane amount of power and give him the future that he wants. And we get explained why he's doing this throughout the story and how he knows about this. As it goes on to say, the light is blinding. For a microsecond, Brainiac thinks that it must have been what it was like the Big Bang, when a pin drop of matter expanded and an unspeakable force of energy into an infinite expanding universe. But the energy swirls and hardening into shapes and eyes burning with the power of creation, the fury of them fumbling, all consuming giants and great warriors. So basically, as Brainiac did it, Brainiac's pretty much saying that this, the energy that's being released kind of emulates the Big Bang that created the universe, and as it's happening, it's forming into eyes, and as the energy is forming into eyes and swirling, it's the eyes of Perpetua, which is its creation. So since she created the multiverse, this energy that's being released is basically releasing her out of the source wall, and as it's releasing her, it's forming her face, and it's showcasing that she was the one who created it. And we see later on, it says, the first creator, the great mother of the monitor, the anti-monitor, and the world forger, the being who designed the universe before our own to be a dangerous self-sustaining weapon in the greater omniverse, among all of her brothers and sisters tending the infinite multiverse, within no being was more feared and more rivaled. She was Perpetua, and she would not be imprisoned again. So she was the most powerful one in there. She was basically tasked to creating the multiverse that was interconnected to the omniverse itself as a whole. And they said infinite multiverse, so most likely maybe the multiverse might have been infinite there, because they had multiple events where they changed the multiverse. The one where we saw where it was Infinite Crisis, the Crisis on Infinite Earths, that was the first time we saw an event where it showed the whole multiverse getting destroyed, and then it turned to a single universe. Then that ended up failing again, destroyed, and turning back into a multiverse. But she actually had a multiverse prior to even that one where the Anti-Monitor destroyed, which was stated to be an infinite multiverse that she was created and working on, but she went too far with it, and they ended up having to destroy that multiverse to create the Source Wall, which created the new multiverse that got destroyed by the Anti-Monitor billions of years afterwards. As this is happening, one of the Guardians of Oa, he goes on to say, "This is a priority alert to every Green Lantern ring in 100 million light years. Return to Oa, race to the center of the universe. The edge of space is about to rip open. The Source Wall is going to explode." So he himself can sense it. He says, "Hey, everybody, all of you guys from 100 million light years throughout the universe, come back here to Oa, which is the center of the universe, because there's going to be a hole ripping through the edge of the universe because the Source Wall is about to explode." And it does end up exploding. It says, "The sound deafening, carrying impossible throughout the vacuum of space, shocking the very foundations of reality. Death of the Source Wall echoes in the souls of those present." So as it got destroyed, it shook reality because the Source Wall already being breached and just not even fully destroyed, but being breached. The energy leaking was already affecting the universe and multiverse and destroying things. So with it completely destroyed and all that energy being released and Perpetua being released, obviously at this point everything is being destroyed. But as this is happening, Brainiac and Lex Luthor are talking as he says, "There's Perpetua formed from the destroying wall, a Source Wall must have exerted her power. Your plan worked wonderfully, Brainiac." So they did this to break her out because they want to use her and her power because they see that we get to explain a little bit more, and I'll explain a little bit later, but Lex Luthor sees that she's very important and that she's very necessary for the creation of the multiverse as a whole. Now, even though Perpetua has been released from the Source Wall, she doesn't have full power. She's kind of she's unconscious at this point. Her physical body is there, but she just can't really do anything or move or use her power. She pretty much has no energy, and because of that, Lex and Brainiac assembled the Legion of Doom. And as they assemble, they're trying to regain her, help her regain her power back. They're trying to get her back to her full power, not only to be able to be conscious and moving around, but also once when she reaches full power, they can have her, get rid of the multiverse and recreate it in the image that they're seeking. Because Lex has been able to pierce into what her plans were and what the plans for the previous multiverse was before they trapped her into the wall. But as this is happening, all the Green Lanterns are leaving, and the Justice League are just standing there as one of the Guardians of Oa starts talking to Wonder Woman. He says, "The multiverse will die in a matter of months. This universe will need the Green Lantern Corps. In order, they will need order, not Earth's brand of justice." So he's telling them that, well, now the Source Wall is gone. We only have a few months left before, the entire universe is now pretty much screwed. Before it was already in a bad position, but now it's completely in a terrible position. As the Justice League now at this point, they're completely disappointed that they failed in their mission. As they go on to talk about what happened, Flash says, "There's a strange vibrational quality to the entire universe around us. I never felt it before. The shell holding the multiverse in place is broken and now it's adrift in the void, caught in the unknown tides, heading towards judgment." Towards judgment? What does he mean what does he mean, Uncle? How can the multiverse be moving? What is moving in this? What is moving towards? I don't know what is facing with giving the power of perfection itself. So basically, Flash says, "I can feel that the vibrations are weird. I've never felt this before," as Starman goes on to say, since we had the Source Wall, the whole point of the Source Wall was it was supposed to be a barrier keeping the multiverse in place and holding it from, sliding into the void, and once when it gets into the void, it starts to, the energy of the void is unstable and starts to destroy and kind of like disintegrate slowly the entire multiverse as a whole. And he said that usually the source wall is there to basically block us, but now since it's not there, our multiverse is no longer like stuck, it's moving now, and it's moving into it, and the more it's moving into it, the more destruction is happening. And the further out the universes are in the multiverse that are closer to the source wall, they're the first ones to get disintegrated and wiped out, and the ones that are further away from the source wall is going to take more time. But as this happens, as the source wall is destroyed, this is where we lead into the big story event where Lex and his Legion of Doom set on to their big mission and goal, where we see throughout a couple of different timelines and through different characters, where we see 85,000 years from now, it says simply breaks free, emits and beginnings striking towards its target, and you see the future Justice League in the year 85,000 years from now. We see also the Monitor seeing that from 85,000 years from now, saying behind the space-time swirls like a road dust. So there's a lot of energy coming from this energy source. We also see from 5,000 years from now, so it's also in the future, but not too far in the future, where we see like some other people seeing it in this dystopian world. And then the Quintessence? Sorry, I can't pronounce it. Quintessence, whatever. They're a collection of the most powerful beings in the entire multiverse, and they basically are a council on dealing with these big events. And they themselves, are talking about this, the end and stuff, and it's, is showing now. So we see this energy source keep on going forward, and at this point the Justice League has caught wind to this energy because they're able to pick up the energy levels itself, and they go on to talk about saying, but moments ago something came to life, something containing all of the walls of energy, its power. It's almost like it's a battery or a core. The totality is rocketing towards Earth, and it will impact us in 3 minutes. Scanning now, holy, the energy is older than anything in the multiverse, but it's moving with a kind of purpose phasing. You think it's coming here for a reason? Is our multiverse dying? Maybe this thing can help. So this energy thing is coming. It's actually kind of sentient. They call it the totality, and they call it totality for a reason, as they explain a little bit later. But they're saying it's like a battery or it's a core that came from the source wall being destroyed, and it's coming to Earth. So it's kind of sentient. It's coming there, and they're wondering, is it gonna help us out from multiverse for the multiversal destruction, or is it gonna harm us? So as it comes, they go on to say. It says, I regret my stance, but this is the thing. It's a sentient. I have known evil gods. I say we fire. Arthur, is our multiverse is dying. It is. Hell's readings are correct. In a year, maybe less. It'll expel energy, then planets, then universes. Maybe this thing is the key to hell. It's unknown, but what was the speed force? The multiverse to the dark multiverse, we need to see this totality. So they go on to talk about it, saying, what should we do? Because they're planning on probably firing at it and trying to destroy it. I don't think they would have had the firepower to destroy it anyway, but they were firing at it. And Aquaman literally says that since it's sentient, it's most likely going to harm us, so we should just fire at it and destroy it. And Wonder Woman's like, hold up, we don't know enough about it. Flash says, yeah, we don't know enough. We learned about other stuff, but he said Hal's calculations are correct. It should be within a year or less that the universe is going to die. He said that first the energy that's coming from the void is going to destroy planets, then the universes, and then pretty much wipe out everything. But after this, we get a little bit more story events as Lex is now going on his mission to pretty much help Perpetua gain all of her power back. As he's doing this, he pretty much goes up to Vandal Savage as he has this important thing. It's like a key to the totality itself, which is that whole energy source, and he's trying to get his hands on it. So he had to go to Vandal Savage, and he grabs him from Vandal Savage and beats him to death with it. And yes, Vandal Savage is immortal, but he got his power directly from the key that was connected to the totality. So the fact that he killed him, he pretty much took his immortality away from him by using that key and then beat him to death with it. And this totality, what it pretty much is is it's pretty much the total sum of the source wall. So all the energy that the source wall contains, it is the total sum of that. Meaning that this energy source is very powerful, because we already know at this point, even people who might not know everything about DC, know that the source wall is the most powerful thing in all of DC. It has the most energy out of anything in DC, out of the God sphere, the Speed Force, the light spectrum, or the emotional spectrum, the multiverse, the fifth dimension. The source wall is the most powerful thing, and there's nothing that has been able to surpass that. So it's the highest source of energy. So the fact that this, totality is coming in, that's the entire total sum of that, the source wall, means it would be the most powerful form of energy source throughout the entire DC cosmology itself. So Lex is trying to get his hands on it, and he had a connection with a key that has a connection to it. As this is happening, as he's setting his plan in motion, John Stewart is talking to Martian Manhunter as he goes on to say, you weren't here, Barry, but years ago I battled with the League against anti-life on a planet called Zhangxi. It was John, but his fear of fire, I thought he was slowing me down, so I left him behind. Afterwards, I searched and anything would help me bring Zhangxi back. I found a book describing a spectrum beyond the one we knew, a warning, a book with one of many missions to make it sure it was never unlocked. Sinestro and what he described was terrifying. The spectrum is the heart of living phantom galaxy powered by a sentient black sun called Ambraxis. So he's talking about a time that happened years ago where he and apparently also Sinestro found this one place where they had these weird symbols, and the symbols in this book basically showed that this area had this other spectrum of emotions beyond the ones that they have, because they have the willpower, anger, hope, all these other ones. Sorry if you guys are hearing noises. The neighbors are being kind of noisy. The kids are outside. But going back to it, like, they have the other emotional spectrums. We have death and life, but now we have a completely different one that is beyond all of those other ones, and it's and this spectrum is Heart's living phantom galaxy. So it's a phantom galaxy that's powered by a living black sun, and it's called Ambraxis. So he mentions this because it is actually important to Lex's plan. As he goes on to say, Ambraxis moves unseen throughout space, draws towards planets where self-destructive forces are strongest, usually primitive outliers. It surrounds these places, animates them with its energy, and then it pulls them into its galaxy. So he's explaining that this energy source, or this invisible spectrum, as they call it, or Ambraxis, is basically searches throughout the universe. It finds planets that has people that are very self-destructive in nature, and they're very their nature of obtaining more and just conquering and getting as much as they can. So basically just the highest level of greed and ambition for power. So he mentions this as he goes on. And as this is happening, Sinestro actually takes the power and connects to the power of... he actually connects to the power of the invisible spectrum. As he shows up with a bunch of people that are part of the invisible spectrum, it takes away their will, any form of will, and it just gives it to Sinestro to control. So he basically controls a bunch of people. As he comes up and he shows up, he says, John Stewart goes on to say, celebrate the still force. It just reached full power. The universe, it stopped expanding, and the membrane is disappearing. This Ambraxis controls over the people succumbing to its call. Sinestro can lead the largest corpse in the entirety. All the other corpses put together aren't even close. So what is happening? Lex, he finds out, and like I said, I'll explain a little bit more because there's quite a bit, but he enacted two plans simultaneously. One was to obtain the invisible force, or the invisible light spectrum, or whatever. It's the emotional force that's above and beyond all the other ones, and he got it and gave it to Sinestro to control, since he's used it quite a bit. So now Sinestro has mastered it, and he's created his own army that is the biggest out of all the corps combined. And then he also, the other plan went to work to get the still force, which you guys have probably heard before. What the other forces like the sage force, the strength force, the still force, the opposite of the speed force. Whereas the speed force, is motion and movement. The still force is everything stopping and stasis, and once when they reached full power, it stopped the expansion of the universe itself. So I guess the speed force would be the expansion of the universe, and the still force would be the stop of the expansion of the universe. So once when Lex got the ability to reach the full power of the still force, he was able to stop the expansion of the universe itself, which is pretty impressive, and then also control most of the minds in the universe itself. And as this is happening, there was quite a bit that was happening at this time. As the totality, once when it crashed into the Earth, it was setting off a lot of energy in a certain area, and they tried to go into it, and they found out that the energy that it was releasing was mutating the life around it, and as it was mutating, it was evolving it, but while it was evolving it, it was taking away its survival instincts so it could be a perfect guardian. So the whole point was to upgrade the life around there. As they got stronger and have evolved through the energy of the totality itself, they would lose their instincts of survival, so they would be their sole motive would be to protect the totality itself, and just fight to the death on whoever would be there. But it would change the genetic coding. And as this was happening, the Justice League said, we have to get inside there and we have to get the totality energy out from there, but we can't do it with any of the other Justice League members, because if they go in, their genes would mutate too fast and too quickly, and they'll be a part of the totality. And once that happens, then they'll lose their free will. So they picked the two of the best candidates for that job. One was Superman, the other one was Martian Manhunter, because Martian Manhunter can manipulate his genetics and full control over his body, so he would have the best type of defense against something that would start a mutation. And Superman's body is very strong and durable. But that wasn't just it, as they were also, not only were they physically the best for going in there, there was still the danger of the mutagen, changing their body. So the Justice League, they had two teams. They had Superman and Martian Manhunter going in there to reach the source so they can grab it for themselves before Lex and his group does it. But like I said, they were chosen because their bodies, the way it's made, it can handle the mutation, but not just completely perfectly. They do need help. So to help them out, both Batman and Hawkgirl basically used the Atom's machine to shrink themselves. If they shrunk themselves with these ships, and they went inside both Superman and Martian Manhunter. Hawkgirl went inside Martian Manhunter, and Batman went inside Superman. But as they did this, Lex actually intercepted their plan and sent Joker inside Martian Manhunter to attack Hawkgirl, so he can take control over Martian Manhunter, and Lex Luthor invaded into Superman's so he can take out Batman, and then he can invade Superman so he can control Superman while he's in there, so he can grab the source for himself while this was happening. So he had the rest of the Justice League members fight against Sinestro and Gorilla Grodd, who had this baby, who was pretty much one of he was one of Flash's enemies, called Turtle something, or Turtle Man, Turtle Master, and he turned him into a baby because he's the person who he's the only person that has shown pretty well control over the Still Force. The only problem with him is he was a little too old, so he couldn't use it properly. So Lex pretty much reversed his age and turned him into a baby, where his power would be at the maximal power, and had Gorilla Grodd use him since he couldn't use it himself since he's a baby. So Gorilla Grodd was imbued with the Still Force to basically stop Flash and negate his Speed Force, and he gave the invisible energy spectrum to Sinestro so he can use it to control the mind of John Stewart and ruin his will. So they were fighting there while the other two were going in there, and then they had Batman and Hawkgirl inside them. But like I said, he intercepted them. Now this is very important because there's a really impressive feat that happens after this that a lot of people try to overscale Superman because of this, because as this happens, there's some interesting dialogue, and this was stated by some Superman fans and even Death Battle, where they stated that at one point Superman Lex Luthor was able to take control over Superman's body, and as he did, he was able to use his body without holding back, and as he did this, just with his steps alone, he was able to pretty much shake the universe, and other dimensions felt the force of it, meaning that Superman's power, when is completely unleashed and not held back, he's strong enough to, just with his steps alone, shake the entire universe and other dimensions, which would be making multiversal or low multiversal or multidimensional, just from his steps alone. But that isn't true, because there's quite a bit of what happened in that. But I'll go through that a little bit. As we see, as they say, in hell they felt it too. Neron nearly drops a vile-aged cast of human souls. Shivering runs up his spine. A sensation he has never experienced before. At the far reaches of the universe, the fire pits of Apocalypse spring to horrifying new heights. Because right now, at the very moment, Lex Luthor is plotting Superman's body forward step by step, about to achieve everything he's ever dreamt of. He feels the universe tremble beneath him. And we do see, Superman and Martian Manhunter pretty evilly walking, and it says the totality, the multiverse itself was right in front of them. They need to only reach to grab it and squeeze it. And so why is that important? So like I said, a lot of people have attributed that to Superman's power and saying that usually Superman holds back, but when he doesn't hold back, this is how powerful he is. Not only have Superman fans have said this, but also Death Battle has used this in their argument too when it came to Superman's power. So they're saying that Superman's steps alone did it because, look, Lex stated himself, he said the universe is trembling, we saw the other dimensions being affected by it. Like even hell itself is affected by his steps alone. But that is not true. What happened here was, and they completely take it out of context, what happened here was, like I said, Lex Luthor, when he was inside Superman's body and he was using him, like I said earlier, there's this whole event, they have the whole totality stuff, right? They have the totality energy itself that they're trying to reach, right? But they also have other fragments of totality within other people. Some of that energy is in Starman. Some of it is in what Hawkgirl's wings, and most of it is in this key that Lex got from Vandal Savage, which he beat him to death with. And that's that key Vandal Savage had since caveman times, and that's what gave him his immortality. And Lex used that to take away his immortality and beat him to death. So now Lex has it. And while Lex was piloting Superman while he was inside his body, he had the key with him. As he had the key with him, he already got the two, he needed, and they explain a little bit later, and I'll explain a little bit later, they need 7 energy sources, 7 cosmic energy sources that make the universe run, and he needed to meet 7 requirements to power up this key, and the more it powered up, the more control he has over the totality itself. Here we got 2 of them by fully unlocking the Stealth Force and the invisible spectrum. So here we got 2 of the requirements for the 7 requirement for the key, so there would be 5 more. So it charged up the key while he had it, and he had it while he was within Superman, and since it's interconnected to the totality energy itself, the closer he got to it with this key being activated, it was setting out vibrations throughout the multiverse, since that totality energy is pretty much what's the thing called? It's the total sum of the source wall, which is the energy interconnected in all of life and all of creation. And since this key is interconnected to it, the closer he got and the more connection he got with it and the more power he was able to gain and unlock the key's potential, the more of an effect it had with it. So since it was affecting the totality itself, the totality was affecting the rest of creation. So the closer he was getting to it by walking with Superman, the more the energy was kind of pulsating because of it. Since he had a key. So this is the clear cut important context that is needed, because a lot of people made it sound like no, all Lex did was just unlock Superman's true power and didn't hold back because he's Lex. And with that true power of Superman, his steps alone was able to shake, the entire multiverse, the entire universe and stuff like that. And that's how powerful he is. But that isn't true. That is completely incorrect. The only reason it was shaking and the only reason that stuff was happening was because Lex had the key within inside Superman's body, already unlocked the two of the energy requirements, powering it up further. And since he was moving forward with Superman's body, he was getting closer to the energy source that was interconnected with it, thus sending off energy waves from it. So no, it was not Superman's steps. That's completely wrong. That's completely false. That is not his feat. That was the key doing it, and that was the key's connection to the the totality itself. And it was because Lex had that key within him, within Superman. The only reason Superman's steps was doing that is because he was getting closer while Lex was inside of him. Lex was inside, let's say, Martian Manhunter, the same thing would have happened, but except instead of Superman, it would have been Martian Manhunter. And the only reason he chose Superman is because obviously he has the whole vendetta against Superman. So no, that was not a Superman feat, him walking there. So I give that completely to the key itself. As they go on, he says, with it, he would unlock the hidden energies of the universe. He would take the totality of universal power and wield it. Doom would come in our time. So, like I said, they stated itself that the key, it basically, to unlock the full power of the key, that it would connect to the totality, where he can take the entire power of it, giving him universal levels of power and being able to wield it and warp the realities however he wants. He would need to meet the requirements fully, and here we met two of the requirements. So, like I said already, it was the key that was doing it, not Superman. As he goes on to say, he would unlock the invisible emotional spectrum of power to allow some limited emotions of the universe to take hold and show all living things their true selves. Then he goes on to say he would find the second of the turtle, and though him unlocking the arresting powers of the still force to stop creation in its tracks. And as he did this, we see something very interesting, which I'll go into explain a little bit briefly. But like I said, he needed first the invisible force, and he needed to give it to somebody, so he gave it to somebody who would have mastery over it, like Sinestro, and he got a bunch of people to join or take over. So as he got them, it gave more energy to it, so it helped out the key unlock that. And then the still force, he needed the full energy of the still force to just stop the universe and all of the worlds in its track. By doing so, this also unlocks another thing to the key itself. Now, the next image I'm going to show you guys is going to be a little confusing without the context to explanation or what's happening. So why is Lex doing this? How does he know about all this? What is his plan? So apparently at one point Lex had a supposed dream. It wasn't actually a dream. He actually went into the future. He found out that within 1 million years in the future, civilization had molded into basically his paradise. What he's always envisioned for humanity actually came through fruition, and he actually was worshipped by the mortals, as they were stating that Lex Luthor himself was pretty much right all along. So apparently 1 million years in the future, the Earth is in a lot of grave danger and peril until they found these ancient books and texts from Lex Luthor himself on how to, move through life and how to get stronger and how to progress. And as they read this, they realized that he was kind of right, and they kind of followed his teachings. As they followed his teachings, they were able to avert the crisis that they were going through and actually achieve evolution as they needed it. And they were praising Lex. As they were praising Lex, Lex was pretty proud about it, but he was also kind of a little annoyed the fact that it took 1 million years for society to realize that he was right. So he said, that's not good enough for me. I need to make society realize that I'm right in my time, not in 1 million years in the future, in my time. And the people there said, hey, no worries, man. There's a way for you to do it in your time. We can help you out, but we just can't tell you everything. Though we'll give you a little bit of a hint, and it was a symbol. And the symbol was the same as on the key itself. So they're pretty much telling him, hey, if you get a hold of this key, you should be able to get a hold of it. There's a way, and like I said, I'll explain a little bit later, because this was also explained how Lex got this or knew the knowledge. But as he went 1 million years in the future, they gave him a heads up that, hey, find the symbol. Once you find the symbol, you would know that this will help you out, and also know that Doom is what you need. The ID of Doom will also help you out with your goals. So he said, okay, this is the first thing I'm gonna do. He found a symbol on the key, which was with Vandal Savage, that had to do directly with tie with this Doom. So as he did it, he got a hold of it. So that's how he knew all this. And since he got it, he got the energies, and since this energy is connected to this complete total sum of the source wall, this means not only is it connected to the universes, but it's also connected to time. So it's connected to time and space. And since he's unlocked it, now he's pretty much changed the future. Instead of a million years in the future, his vision comes through fruition. Now it's already come through fruition, so the future is being changed. As it goes on to say, as he took the power in his hands, it echoed across all space and time. It echoed all the way to Lex City and humanity's end. As the wall of light swallowed the future, erasing it, they all knew that this was meant. The Luther found the key to unlocking the truth in its own time. So, like I said, sorry if you hear a car, but like they said, like I was saying, as he got the energy, once you connect to the energy, even without the full energy, you can manipulate reality and time itself. And as he got these two energy sources, and unlocked the first two steps to it, it set out an energy, like I said earlier, it was affecting, as he was using Superman and Martian Manhunter's bodies to get closer to it. It was, the closer the range was getting, the more of an effect it was having on the fabric of all of reality. And it showed, as that happened, it pretty much echoed throughout space and time, effectively changing the future from, a million years in the future of Lex, achieving his goal, to now, at this point of achieving his goal. And as Lex was he was approaching, he said he should have thought it bigger, but no matter how big it was, because now, look at it. Hello, beautiful. The totality of the multiverse itself was right in front of them. They needed only to reach out and grab it. So, like I said, this was the key. They even show the side-by-side where Lex is controlling him and then showing Superman moving, and they show him holding the key and it's lit up. So it showcases that the key was connected to this. So they go on, as they later on go on to say, I can feel it. The doorknob vibrates with godlike power. Is just a fraction of the whole two, forged from a piece of the totality that broke off into space and phased through time. It is approached to Earth, a piece discovered by some wise men and women, and only then have been wise as Lex, thinking when joking and calls out for there. And then there's the totality itself. So what does that pretty much mean, all that stuff that he was saying right there? He's saying pretty much that now with the energy unlocked and the key being activated and getting closer to the source, that now it's vibrating and he can feel the godlike power coming from it. And the entire, he says it's only a fraction of it too, since it's only 2 out of the 7 that he needs. But with that alone, he can feel the godlike power and the vibrations and the effects that it's having already on reality as a whole. And he mentioned the fact that it was forged from a piece of a totality that broke off in the past as it phased through time and approached to Earth. So as this energy source was going through space and time, as we saw, it came from 85,000 years in the future to 5,000 years in the future to now. As it was traveling, pieces of it were breaking off and flying through different parts of space-time. That's why there are other people with it, like Starman having some, and Hawkgirl having some, and then obviously the key right here. So it broke off into multiple pieces. So the totality they have right here is not the total sum, it's just the biggest piece. It's almost the whole thing, but there are some fragments throughout space and time, and Lex has one of the biggest pieces besides the totality itself that he's holding that has the most connection. And once he meets requirements and gets the other piece of the totality with this, he's able to have full mastery over the entire multiverse and completely unlock Perpetua herself. As it goes on to say, the unbridled power of creation unlocked away within the source well. Since the multiverse was born, he unlocked 2 of the 7 hidden energies needed to take its power, but it calls to him. So like I said, he needs 7 of these hidden energies. So these are hidden energies of the universe and how the universe operates. He already unlocked 2 of them. He has 5 more to go. And with just those 2 alone, it gave him so much power, and he can feel that this is the source wall's energy that birthed the multiverse after Perpetua is defeated and locked up because of it. So as this is happening, the Justice League, they pretty much lose the fight as they lost. They dip out of the place out there. Superman dips and Martian Manhunter dip. They pretty much got injured in that fight. They got depowered. Batman got completely injured. And as they left, they're trying to find a way to stop Lex because he already has the key and he has a bunch of energy. But they did get to take the totality with them because while this was happening, what's the thing called? Hawkgirl started to attack Lex Luthor. As she attacked him, she pretty much stabbed him and took him down, so that freed them and that helped them escape. So she was stuck there as she stabbed Lex Luthor. As they got freed, they were trying to find a way to stop him. As Martian Manhunter went on to say, "We are showing them all that connected through weakness. We all stretch. I can hold much longer. Barry, you must access the still force and start the universe expanding again in order to close the door on Ambraxis." So he's saying that they're screwed us over on both fronts. We already lost that one, so we're just gonna leave. Hawkgirl is handling it, so we need to fix this other problem with the whole universe being stuck. So Barry, you need to break what he did with the still force, and I'm gonna break the mind control with the invisible spectrum. So they're doing their job, and as this is happening, Martian Manhunter starts to go on to narrate as he's talking about Hawkgirl. He says, "What do we do? What do we know of this moment? This is the oldest energy source in existence, the living power core from which our reality was sculptured before it was encased in the source wall. It is light, it is heat, it can be found in answers and everything in answers about how our multiverse was built and by whom, and hopefully answers also about how it was to save, because right now our multiverse is dying and broken by bleeding energy. We attempt to heal the breach, but we should fail. This totality might be our best chance of saving our realm." So he's saying that right now that this is very important energy source is connected to everything that was there prior to the source wall is connected to that. This is the only hope that we have to fixing this problem. At this point, they don't know about Perpetua. They don't know she was the one that they was trapped in the source wall. They don't know anything about her. She hasn't really done anything because she's kind of inactive due to the fact that she doesn't have any power and Lex is trying to unlock her power. So right now their big threat is them being in the void and the energy destroying the universe and the multiverse and them trying to repair that. That's why they need the totality, whereas Lex is trying to keep it away from them and try and take it so he can have that power to revitalize fully what's her name? Perpetua. So as this is happening, these guys, they leave. They're like, okay, we lost pretty much. We got destroyed. So we need to move on and try to find a way to stop this. As John Stewart creates a gun as they're using this specific bullet. It says right here, his bullet contains a miniaturized omniversal wormhole. This in case in metal, it should transport the totality outside the source while destroying it. So now at this point, they're like, what do we do with the totality? Lex is ahead of us. He's beating us. He's kind of smarter than us. He's outsmarting us. He has the energy source directly linked to it. The only way to stop this is probably to get rid of the energy source. So he creates this construct gun which has this miniaturized omniversal wormhole. So basically it's a wormhole that allows you to go throughout any once you shoot out, it's like a portal to any part of the multiverse and any part of the omniverse as a whole. So anywhere. So they're trying to eject it outside of completely the entire omniverse as a whole. So if they eject this energy, the totality outside of the omniverse into the void itself, the void would basically destroy the thing. So they're kind of in a position where it's like, we need this to save the universe and the multiverse, but also Lex, if he gets his hands on it, we're screwed. So we don't have any other options. We might as well just shoot it outside of the omniverse and let it get destroyed. But clearly their plan doesn't work as Lex goes and moves on his plan. And he goes for the next energy sources that he's trying to obtain. He has Cheetah and Black Manta go after Wonder Woman and Aquaman. And since Aquaman and Wonder Woman, both their paths are pretty much kind of linked, since Atlantis and Greek gods, their stories are interconnected since they have the same type of pantheon. Their perspective story was combined. As they go on, as Lex pretty much wins again, they had Poseidon to go inside this place called the Graveyard of Gods. And this graveyard of gods is basically where the energy source where all the other gods get their powers from and stuff, and it's also connected to the sphere of gods, which you guys also heard. So the sphere of gods is connected to Wonder Woman and the whole pantheon, and the grave of gods, I'm guessing it's a realm of life and death. It's basically where the gods go, I think, to either be judged or other souls to judge. So it's pretty much the underworld. So yeah, they have the graveyard of gods that's also connected to the sphere of gods. As Lex Luthor goes on to say, "Can you feel them, Cheetah? The two more hidden forces of the universe have been unlocked. We are closer than we ever unlocking the true power of the totality. It's time to take the power of the gods themselves. This key enhancements are incredibly beyond the grave of gods. It was forged to access. Even in this realm, it's part of the grave of gods. Its destruction will set off a cosmic chain reaction echoing from our universe into the sphere of gods, and this create the underworld. The grave of gods is torn apart, and cosmic limits imposed of the gods will be eliminated, and we will be able to take them for ourselves." So what is basically happening is this key is connected to the graveyards of gods, and it allows you to access it, but it's also, of the key is destroyed, the graveyard of gods is destroyed. And if the graveyards of gods is destroyed, then this also affects the sphere of gods. And if the sphere of gods is destroyed, then that means the cosmological structure of the pantheon gods, like the Greek gods, basically gets destroyed, because they have a hierarchy through the god sphere itself. It sets who gets this, godly like power, like Zeus and all of them. But if it's destroyed, if the key is destroyed, it destroys the graveyard of gods, and if it destroys the graveyard of gods, it destroys the sphere of gods. And when the sphere of gods is destroyed, then the gods lose their hierarchy, and that means that anybody can claim the power of the gods. And since they're working with Lex and they have all this power, they're Cheetah and Black Manta are most likely going to be the new gods, replacing the other ones through his power. And this also gives him 2 more energy sources for the key, so now he has 4 energy sources directly to it. So that by them destroying that key already affected the other dimension itself as a whole, and they got the energy there, and it's like I said, it's going to destroy the sphere of gods, which people talk about how sphere of gods is very powerful, but it pretty much just is the energy source for all the other gods. And there's other ways to destroy. So by them destroying the key, they don't really have to destroy the sphere of gods itself. It causes a chain reaction itself. As they do that, the graveyard of gods is getting destroyed, and as this is happening, now Poseidon is telling both Aquaman and Wonder Woman, "Hey, you guys need to leave here," and he explains to them that what the importance of Lex being there and what he's trying to get. He says, "Take my trident, Aquaman. It was meant to turn the oceans of the universe into a crown of life, and it can't be that any longer. Use it as a weapon. As Aaron long ago, fuel the power with the tear of extraction hidden in the old king's bones. Make it rich with death. This place was destroyed with. You could erase them from existence. Save my world. Save the ocean, and do it by somber heart." So what is pretty much happening? The sphere of gods was one of the other energy source, and this other one is what Poseidon is telling Aquaman. So apparently the oceans create life, since all of evolution came from the ocean, like sea creatures. So they're saying that the oceans create life. So the Poseidon and the other ocean gods, which they're space ocean gods, that also are connected to life in their own dimension. As they're connected to their own dimension there with the oceans, that means they're connected to life itself. But he's telling him, hey, you can also unlock the power of death by finding the king's bones. And the king was the first Atlantean king who, he contacted these sea gods from other planets to work with him, but then he ended up betraying them and trapping them in the graveyard of gods because of Poseidon getting in his head, telling them they might be a threat because we don't know them. But as he did this, he trapped them in there and they became their enemies. And he's telling them, hey, look, the oceans, we already have life, but you can also extract death by using this to basically extract it from the previous king's bones. So you can basically converge the life force into death force by putting it in there. And this is the 4th part and key that Lex needs a part of his his energy source. As they go on to say, the other space ocean gods go on to say, our enemies now carry both life and death in their hands. How are we meant to face that? We are sea gods. We will face it with dignity, and we should fall. We should be in fallen glory. Enough of the self-pity. None of you back up fighting in this game. Bring on the heavy weapons. I heard you say something about a powerful being, more powerful than a kraken, rich with nectaric energy twined into the flood. I can feel the beast now inside the blood reef. I can taste its incredible power. There's a great treasure lying beneath the waters you set upon and cannot abandon. So he's basically going on to say, Black Manta is like, who cares? We get it. They have the power of life and death with them right now, because the life comes from the oceans itself, but also death can come from oceans, because life can be drawn out and flooded. So they have both of that. And he's saying, give me the power of this nectar energy, which is necrotic energy. Necrotic energy, which is we all know necrosis, so it's death. So he's like, hey, they're using the life energy, we're going to use the death energy against them, and they ended up actually winning. They beat Aquaman and Wonder Woman, so they took that. So they retook the key that was connected to that, destroying that, taking the energy from destroying the sphere of gods, which added one more energy to the key, and then the fourth one was taking the life and death energy in essence from Aquaman and stuff. So that's how they achieved that. As this was happening, Starman, though, his mental psyche, he was trying to understand more of his power, because all of the power that he has is within his brain. What happened pretty much was he was from the 1980s, and as he was from the 80s, he got his power from the totality at that time, because, like I said, it fractured throughout time, different streams through time. So Lex went through time, pulled this guy out, pretty much captured him, tortured him, and then erased his memory so he wouldn't understand his full scope of his power. And as he did this guy was trying to find out how he was trying to find out all the information and memories that was taken away from him by Lex. So he's trying to unlock it by using Starro. Starro basically sacrificed himself in the Justice League No Justice event, and he got destroyed and came back in a little form that Batman saved, named as Jarro. So he was using Jarro's psychic abilities to connect to him to unlock it. But as he's doing this, Superman sees into his mind and he says, besides you know what John said, Luthor may have booby-trapped parts of his will, pain his mind, and either way, the energy in there is off the charts. I'm looking at it, and meddling could tear a reaction ripping enough to rip a hole in the universe. So he's basically saying, if you mess with his mind, too much and it goes wrong, you can rip a hole through the universe, because he's connected to the totality itself. So unlocking it is very dangerous. They're basically trying to find a way on how to beat him, and that's one, but like, this is not the way. It's too dangerous. But as they do this, and as Starman wakes up, he unlocks more power of totality, but he can't control it now. And as he can't control it, he starts to release the energy, and as he's releasing it, Superman is actually absorbing that energy throughout his body, because Starman releases solar energy also. As it goes on, he says, the solar receptors in my skin are breathing in his energy. I can feel it. I could crack the earth in half with a step. And Batman says, well done. So now Superman's cells are being supercharged, since he's releasing his energy and unable to control it. Now Superman's body is unable to control absorbing it. Now he's absorbing too much, and as he's absorbing it, his body is kind of losing control. And he says, if I step, I can end up breaking the earth in half, which is a planet level feat, is impressive. But like I said, before, people try to say that he can shake or destroy the universe or other realms just by his step alone, or if he unleashes his full power. That's clearly not true, because even in a more powered state where he can't control it, his step was just going to destroy the earth. But it's still impressive nonetheless. As this is happening, Martian Manhunter, he reveals to them that as he was on his travels, because he was trying to find out what happened to Mars, how did it get destroyed. They knew that there was a big calamity, but why? And he was trying to find it. So he was trying to find information, and as he was going and traveling, he found I forgot what it's called, but it was the Hawk People's planet. And as he found that planet, This planet is home to all the secrets throughout the universe and the multiverse, so they have some of the most hidden and in-depth knowledge on reality and existence. So he went there to find out the information on there, and as he went there, he found the last Martian. As he communicated to her, she explained all the stuff. So he said, "Well, I talked to her last time about this, and I got some information, and I feel like of we are struggling on how to beat. Since now he has four of the energies." We need to have some information and find out what's happening. What is all the stuff that's transpiring? So they go back as him, John Stewart, and Hawkgirl all go to the Hawk People's planet to find out more information from the other Martian. As he goes there, they find out that she apparently died, and that they're hiding secrets from them. They find out that apparently she didn't die. They captured her and hid her away because of this specific secret that cannot be let out. The Hawk people were lying to them, manipulating them, and attacking them. And they were attacking them for a good reason, as we do get explanation a little bit later on. But as Martian Manhunter, his team are fighting the rest of the Hawk people, Martian Manhunter gets inside the vault where they're keeping the other Martian that they said that died, and he's talking to her saying what's happening. He's trying to find out more, and she goes on to say, to protect a great secret, the people of Thanagara Prime will wield a great lie. We are saying being the work, but we felt a sheer token had eagerly the source wall will break. Well, the nth metal became far more reactive and more powerful. The Upscanian can now make memories real. It only requires a mind capable of holding the burden of the history and culture that while capturing me, I was in prison. Kedar's whole lie city above is a lie. The others knew how weak Thagarian became, and they would turn on it and take away what the great secret of learning about this. The importance of this secret would bring the Thagarians together, the guardians of dominated of the universe. So she goes on to basically explain that, hey, they had a great lie, and the reason why they're lying is that their world is actually pretty much it was getting destroyed when the source wall broke. Their world was pretty much destroyed because of it. But it also did supercharge the nth metal, because that was a big thing in the Dark Metal story event, and it supercharged and got more powerful. And the crown that she's wearing is called Absorbiskian, and this crown is very important and is very impressive, because whoever wears it can make whatever they think of in their memory come to reality. So that is important. Now, this doesn't mean that having that crown you can envision anything. It's just whatever is in your memory. So whatever you remember, like let's say you remember your home world and it was destroyed, if you wear this, you can bring your home world back. It's not real, but it comes back into reality while wearing the crown, as long as you can remember it in general. But you can't bring anything into existence if you don't remember it. So it goes basically just pure off of pure memory. And they're trying to protect it for a reason. But she goes on to explain about the myth leading about Perpetua, saying the myth spoke of of a universe before our own, a universe shaped in a predatory state by a powerful cosmic mother wielding the seven energies of creation. It was a story of perpetual universe, dark and dangerous, and designed to never die. It was the story of its creator and how she fell. So she's going on to saying that this story is like the story of the myth of the universe before, the one that we have, like I said, and the universe before was actually in a predatory state, where it's basically a conquering state. Instead of just evolving and coexisting, it was all about dominating and controlling and taking over stuff that the villains would like, and it was all powerful cosmic mother they're talking about, which is Perpetua, who was using the seven energies of creation, and that's how she was able to create the multiverse. She wasn't just able to create it through her own power. She had to use the seven energies that Lex is also using to, or the opposites of it, that he's using to power up the key that can control the totality, which can control everything. And it says everything with perpetual darkness and is designed to never die. So this was supposed to be a never-ending universe, whereas the regular universe now, there's going to be a time where it ends. It doesn't go on forever. As she goes on to say, the great Malthusian scientist Corona ordered every place of evidence gathered and would be suppressed and studied under the preparation from the one end of the galaxy to the other. They would hide the mark and the sign of her true power. The story of Perpetua. was the most dangerous secret in creation and beyond the light symbol. So the symbol we've seen it on the key itself, the key and the thing, the totality. It's connected to her. So once when he unlocks it and Lex uses it, he will basically break out Perpetua and free her. Once when she's freed, she's pretty much going to run around terror. So that's what the whole symbol was symbolizing, pretty much there. As she goes on to say, what even the Shirai have been able to do with abstraction, I wear now to rewrite reality itself with the memories of what Targaryen was powered by my mind would be impossible without those energies freed. But I'm dying. I'm dying, and there's still so much I need to know. Yeah. So close far past illusion of Targaryen Prime falls always to nothing. So what's happening? She's basically saying that this crown that I'm wearing, like I said, it basically rewrites reality based on your memory. And what happened was their planet got destroyed, and the reason why they're protecting this so much is by putting it on her head, her memory and her psychic powers are strong enough to be consistently keeping the planet up. So the planet is technically not real. It's actually just created by the crown that the female Martian is wearing. She's wearing it, and she's able to create it and keep it consistent and staying up by having it by the memory. And she said she was only able to use the power when the energies were released by what Lex was doing. So before it wasn't really active, but once when Lex did it, it fully like set it in charge to work. But even now she's dying, she can't do anything about it, so she's gonna go and she can't keep it up forever. But yeah, the planet is pretty much just only held because of the crown, and now that she's dying, it's gonna, fall apart. As she goes on to say, you see, John, we're a race of warriors. We were built from the DNA of humankind, Martian kind, blend together. And when the universe was right, the Perpetua was locked away. Our species were split apart. Humans carried the fire of Perpetua sowed in them, but they were left weak in body and mind. Martians carried the power she instilled, but fear of fire of passion, all of its forms. Three, two, 1, 0. So as she's going on to say that, she explained something pretty interesting. She said that actually prior, the universe before this one, the Martians and the humans were actually one race. They were one race, they were one planet, they were combined species, and that's what Perpetua made them to be. They were made to be her ultimate life forms that were predatory, dominating, conquering, the most ambitious out of any race that would want to dominate. But once when she got locked away, they split up the human DNA and the Martian DNA. So this created humanity and the Martians. And the humans, they had the fire that she sowed in them, so the desire and this ambition, but they were weak physically and mentally, so they couldn't really do anything. Whereas the Martians, they were physically and mentally strong, but they don't have that driving them in them to go and conquer stuff. They didn't have the dog in them, as they say. So by combining them back together, it basically makes the total sum of the mental, physical, and psychic powers all combined, which would give them a big, power boost or whatever. So as this is happening, Starman comes back, and he goes to the other Kendra, who is Hawkgirl, and he's trying to help her out. He says, but I still know you. I can see what happened. The totality broke the chain of resurrection, splitting you between two lives simultaneously. Perpetua didn't want you whole. She was afraid of what might have happened if you were to face her in the end. So what happened was, usually Hawkgirl goes through infinite cycles of death and rebirth. So she's basically immortal, and she keeps on coming back to life throughout her entire lifetime. But now there's two of her that got split up. Why did this happen? As Starman explained, the reason this happened was because of Perpetua. She was scared that if she was combined with the wings that had the full energy of the totality, that it could fight her back and harm her. And she was afraid of that. She was like, no, I can't have this. So she had to split her in half. But as Starman sees this, he wants to help her out. So he takes some of the other, Kendra's energy and gives it to the one that they have to power up. As she goes on to talk to her and explain something pretty interesting, she said, no, listen, we were right before. I could read the map on your wings. It's charting way to a higher plane of existence, the very highest godlike dimension. Don't fall it lightly. So she's basically saying, yes, I could read your wings. I was just lying to you earlier. I pretended that I couldn't to, trick you guys. So she's saying that when I read it, basically it's a chart to the highest higher plane of existence, but not just higher, the highest plane, a godlike dimension. So pretty much the dimension where Perpetua, Monitor, Anti-Monitor, and Forge come from, which is the sixth dimension. Mixie is the fifth dimension, from the fifth dimension, and they're from the sixth dimension. And her wings has a map of the entire sixth dimension, which is stated to be the highest dimension in DC. So DC caps off at sixth dimension, well, in their terms of sixth dimensional. But as this is happening, after what Martian Manhunter found out about the fact that humans and what's the thing called? Martians were interconnected. He's looking to contact somebody specifically, so he calls Lex Luthor, even though Lex Luthor is against him. And the reason why he calls him is because there's some pretty interesting lore between both Lex Luthor and Martian Manhunter. As he goes on to say, "I'm afraid there will be no visits to this memory lane. My suits project a field tuned to your telepathy and blocking it outside with alone with their shape-shifting powers." So basically he calls him, he says, "Hey, I want to talk with you," but Lex is like, "I don't really trust him, he's gonna do some psychic shit." So he was able to somehow tune his tech to be good enough to basically block out his mind reading and his shape-shifting abilities, but he was not there for that. He was he just came, he asked Lex to come there to look for somebody, but as Lex is doing this, he set off a frequency to basically attack Jarro. He says, see, I know what that starfish in your pocket Jarro was doing. You thought you could trick me, bring him along because he works at a different frequency, while my suit just poisoned him with a psychic toxin. Now, I don't know how the fuck he first can be able to block his psychic abilities and his shape-shifting abilities, but now he can also send a psychic poison and attack Jarro. And the only reason Martian Manhunter brought it was because there's these monsters on there that would attack them directly, so he was using it to protect them. But what we find out is that apparently that Lex and Martian Manhunter know each other. They've known each other since they were children, and Lex has actually have powers. So what happened was when Martian Manhunter first arrived onto Earth, he was taken in by some scientists, and one guy in particular by the name of Lionel Luthor, who's Lex Luthor's father. He took him and he imprisoned him, and he was trying to find out, how his powers work and trying to understand more about his powers. And as he was doing this, his son Lex did not like what he was doing, and his son Lex was communicating to Martian Manhunter telepathically, because Lex actually has telepathic powers. It's just he doesn't know it because it was blocked off and his memory was erased, and so was Martian Manhunter's. That's why they didn't know this. But Martian Manhunter and him were friends, and he actually saved Martian Manhunter one time, and Lex Luthor used to have psychic abilities, but when his dad erased his memories, he forgot that he had psychic abilities. So Lex Luthor's actually always had powers. It's just that the memories of those powers had been erased from his mind. But after that, after he has a whole talk with him, that event ends, and he hopes that it changes Lex's mind, that he knows that, hey, you and me have a shared history. You saved me in the past when you were a kid. We had this psychic link. We had this friendship. And not only that, your father was doing this to me, and he erased your memories of your own powers and this, in your story. So I'm hoping that you would change. Sadly, it didn't work, but it was at least a good attempt. But as this is happening, Lex is talking to Brainiac, and Brainiac is kind of questioning the decision to work with like Perpetua and stuff like that. As he pretty much they're trying to unlock the next power, which is the fifth one. What he does is he's trying to get into Lex's mind, so he gets Lex on a table and he gets into it, and they're trying to connect their knowledge, and if they connect their knowledge, they can find a way to proceed. But as this is happening, Brainiac actually tricks Lex Luthor and did this to trap Lex in there where he has all the power, so he can do whatever he wants. But Lex says to Brainiac, "Hey, look, I know you're trying to betray me, but here's the thing. You're not gonna do it, and you're gonna change your mind when I show you some stuff that's gonna give you a different perspective." So he's like, "I highly doubt it, but go ahead, show me whatever it is that might change my perspective from trying to use you." So he's like, "Okay, whatever." So as they go on, they explain the whole story of the whole totality thing and the key and all the stuff that happened, and they mainly go through it by explaining Vandal Savage because he was the first person to find this, and he was the one who had the most knowledge about it prior to Lex and Brainiac. So he's showcasing to me. He says, an early fragment of the total striking before the dawn of human civilization. I suspect this occurred on many, many worlds in many times, perhaps, but in how many of these worlds did a single man convert his power to completely? He slaughtered the wise men who helped him find it here. It was an image of inhumanity of algebra millennia before the rise of its first civilization. So what he said is when it first landed, Vandal Savage went there with some of his own tribespeople. They went there to inspect what was happening. He touched it. Once he touched it, he absorbed the total energy of this. But once he absorbed the total energy, not only did he become immortal, but he learned everything about this and, you know, the events and all this history. And he learned everything, and he realized that it was dangerous. He got all this knowledge. He doesn't know fully everything, but he does know enough to know the dangers of it, and he wants to understand more. So he wiped out his people that he came there with. And Brainiac suggested, well, didn't many other civilizations might have had this? He said, yeah, but not to the extent that, Vandal Savage had control over it. And he goes on to explain that he found out that Vandal Savage created this team throughout all of history, basically trying to get in the smartest minds to try to, uncover more of the truths of this key and the totality and, the history of the multiverse and Perpetua and all this shit. So he had this whole team to do this for quite a while. And there's many story events that transpired to find out about these seven energies and stuff like that pertain to the key. And one person in particular that was very important was Lex's dad. And Lex's dad, when he was experimenting on Martian Manhunter, he was experimenting on him specifically because he was working with Vandal Savage and he learned the knowledge of it. So, just like how, Martian Manhunter found out that throughout this journey that humans and Martians were at one point interconnected as a species, his dad knew it because of Vandal Savage, so he was working with them. And as it goes on, as we see more of what happens with Lex Luthor's dad and Vandal Savage, as Lex's dad says, send a message to Vandal at once. I recovered the tear of extraction. The dead Atlantean king Aaron did it, the master of the dark, opposite of the life force. We measured it in its oceans. We must burn the ship, leave no trace here on the South Pole. We only have one hope of this. Key is the mythical graveyard of the gods. So he was working with Vandal Savage. He found the tear of extraction, which extracted death from life itself. Which the king found, and then but then Lex intercepted and took it, and then he found also the key and the graveyard of gods. So everything that the Justice League have found, his dad and Vandal Savage found prior, and Lex was able to learn this knowledge, so he already had a leg up over the rest of the, Justice League members, so he was already had advancements. But they go on as his dad discovers another thing, saying, I hypothesize the existence of imaginary thought constructs. I call them imps. Other creatures may have called them leprechauns and bogarts, but a hypothetical fifth dimension could open the doors to the sixth dimension. Finally, the keys are all still lost. The first of them is to do with knowledge, and the second is kind of perspective, cosmic force that may require breaking a hypothetical multiversal wall, activating which will need to move to the next phase of the experimental experiment. So he's basically talking about these imaginary thought construct called imps. So he's talking about Mixiospitalik and Batmite and the fifth dimensional imps themselves. He's saying that there's a hypothetical at that time dimension that could open the door to the sixth dimension. So before you go through these dimensions, you have to go through certain ones. You have to go through each one. They're in the third dimension, so they have to go through the fourth dimension, which is time, and then they have to go through the fifth dimension. And he said once we get to the fifth dimension, it's the only other dimension below the sixth. So once you get to the fifth dimension, you can get in contact with one of these imps. You can basically breach a door into the sixth dimension because there's no other being that will be strong enough. The only other people that allow it would be other sixth dimensional beings, which they probably won't do it. And then he talked about how the knowledge and the kind of cosmic force that may require to break the hypothetical multiversal wall. This happened when Wally West and Flash were racing each other, as Wally West was trying to break the source wall, or not the source wall. He was trying to break the Speed Force, which was one of the cosmic multiversal walls. He broke it, and once he broke it, he actually used a source wall to break the time barrier, time waller, I think it was. but he ended up breaking the force wall or some shit, and then it broke out all these other ones: the sage force, the strength force, the speed force. Speed force was already there, and then the still force. So it connected to all those other forces in nature. So as this is happening, Lex finds out that, hey, we need to, our next step, as he's going through the knowledge, he showcases to Brainiac why he shouldn't, betray him and do this, due to the fact that he says that, hey, you need to work with me. And he's like, why? Because you're thinking too mathematically when it comes to this. You can't think mathematically, because Lex, prior to this, was talking to, what's his name? To the Batman Who Laughs, and the Batman Who Laughs said, you know why you always lose to Superman? Because you value yourself above everybody else. You think you only believe in yourself. You have to believe in something higher, and a higher purpose. And he told him, so what is the higher purpose should I believe in? He said, believe in Doom, believe in Perpetua, and what she has built for the the multiverse itself. So now he starts to believe in Perpetua herself, and he teaches. He teaches what's the name, Brainiac. The only way to unlock more power is not through using, through being very, methodical and like mathematical. Think through faith. You have to believe. So as he does this, he agrees with him and he breaks him out, and they work together. As they work together, they realize that now they need to get a fifth dimensional imp, and the Justice League. Luckily, they also realize this too, so they're trying to get Mixia-Spitalik. As they're doing this, they go on to say, John sent a subtle psychic call across dimensions with the help of Starman. And this is whether exactly what Day 90 would predict to be. Although a combination, you could fool him into it in time to return. Its coming is ready. We're about to face the most powerful enemy of one of the most dangerous beings in existence. So they basically had this contraption, and they're using Martian Manhunter's psychic abilities amplified with Starman's power to basically call out to him and bring him out. But not only do they bring him out, once they bring him out, they'll bring him out into this cage, which will bind him. And Superman says he's the most powerful, enemy he's faced. So out of all the beings that Superman's ever fought against, Mixia-Spitalik is the strongest. He's stronger than, Darkseid. So he said he's the strongest and the most dangerous being there because he's a fifth dimensional being, which is only one dimension and level below the highest, which is the sixth dimension. But they thought they pretty much trapped him. It did not work, as we see later on. Mixia is using his power and he's warping the city and manipulating it however he wants. The Justice League also tries to attack him, and he starts manipulating them. He starts manipulating John Stewart specifically, just messing with him directly. But as this is happening, and he's still in the cage, they're pretty much trying to stop him, as they go on to say, it's simple, Mixia. Martian Manhunter is telepathically making you subconsciously repeat your name backwards, neutralizing your abilities. Push back against it and you will wind up saying it out loud and be sent back into the fifth dimension. All things that you saw aren't there. So what happened was he was using his powers that you guys are trying to trap me. Well, you know what? I'm going to fuck with you guys. So he started messing with them, and Superman explained his powers stopped working, and he's like, why? And Superman explained to him that subconsciously, Martian Manhunter was able to mess with Mixius' mind and make him repeat his words, his name backwards, which neutralizes abilities. And he said, if you try to focus on it, you might say it out loud, and if you say it out loud, you're going to go back there anyway. Because it's supposed to be his 90 days to fuck with Earth and Superman in general. But he doesn't want to ruin it doing so. Which doesn't really make sense, though. You would think him being a higher dimensional being, like a fifth dimensional being, his mind wouldn't be easy to, invade and manipulate, but apparently it was. But while this is happening, Lex and the rest of them, they're checking on Perpetua as she's gaining more strength. Lex goes on to say, Perpetua, look, planets are forming around her fingers, even in sleep, galaxies are born and die around her. So she's so powerful that even in her unconscious state, she has planets around her fingers, and then planets around her, and then galaxies forming around her, and the galaxies being born and dying. But as this happens afterwards, the Justice League breaks out Mixia-Spitalik, and now they're just talking to him directly, saying, hey, look, we're having a problem. We need your help with this problem. And he goes on to say, recently we learned Kendra's wings hold a pattern that could be a key to fixing the multiverse. We think it's some kind of map to the fifth dimension. And then he goes on to say, where, my dear, it's all around you. As she says, is that where we need to go to save everyone? Where is it? My dear, it's all around you. Look, the stupid first dimension is just a stupid boop. The second is a line, boring. The third, well, it's material stuff. The fourth is TikTok time. But the fifth is the imagination. The fifth is imagination, that everywhere at once you can see it. If you could. So what he's basically saying is that what they're saying is that, hey, look, Kendra's wings, they have a map to the multiverse and stuff, and Superman suggested this might be a map to the fifth dimension, your dimension, so we need your help for that. And she said, well, where is the fifth dimension? And he goes on to explain a little bit about string theory, though their form of string theory is a little bit different than real world string theory. But Mixie specifically explains that the first dimension is just a line, right? Or he says it's just a point. It's just a single point, which isn't true. The real one is just a line, so it's just like width, and then the second dimension is length. But in this one, he says just a dot, then the second one is just a line, then the third dimension is there's the material world, then the fourth dimension is time itself. So time, a lot of people get time confused. They think it's part of the third dimension, or the dimension that we live in, which is the third dimension, is the fourth dimension. It's not. The third and fourth are separate. The third is depth, which is basically the space, and then time, though it's connected to space, it's its own separate dimension that's completely outside of it. But I'm not going to get into all that. I'll explain that in a whole video at some point in the future, right? But he's basically, saying that, that the first two aren't really anything important. The third one is material, the fourth one is time, and then the fifth one is imagination itself. So his powers run on imagination. He can imagine whatever he wants. That's why he can manipulate the multiverse, which is the third dimension, however he wants to, and even time, the fourth dimension, which he's above. So the third and fourth are kind of interconnected. The third dimension is just the multiverse itself, and the fourth dimension is the hyper time, which is connected to all the universes and timelines of the multiverse itself. But he can manipulate not only all the spaces, but all the times there, and however he wants. So you can do whatever. And he said that the fifth dimension is technically not outside of the dimension, is connected, but it's different. Since it's, imagination, it's everywhere. It is outside and it's simultaneously in the inside. So some people might say, well, if destroying the multiverse, would that make it fifth dimensional feat? No, but fifth dimensional beings can do it. It is interconnected, but the fifth dimension is just connected to all the lower levels of realities, just like how time is connected to the third dimension, even though it's beneath it. But then he goes on to say, you see that it's freaking dying, but what? Ever since your brains broke the source wall, imagination is running wild. The fears of the hopes of every living thing we lived are imps. And as he goes on to say, we can't keep up with the waste of our digibit out of come again. And he said, our blood, never mind. The fifth dimension is nowhere, is not where your map is pointing, but where is it then? It's pointing at the sixth dimension. There is no sixth dimension, but there is, my friends, and it's the key to everything. Here, let me show you. So what he's saying in those two instances is that right now, once the source wall got broken, the source wall, like I stated before, I forgot which video it was in, but I stated before that the most powerful thing in DC is imagination and belief in ideologies and concepts and in, existence. And that's what the source wall energy is connected to. And he said that your mind's broken. So I don't know what happened in the, black metal event to destroy the source wall, but I do know a little bit the fact that their mind's going to overdrive with imagination ended up breaking the source wall. When it ended up breaking the source wall, it pretty much what's the thing called? Because the fifth dimension is imagination itself. So if you break the source wall and you break the imagination and you overdo it, you're going to overwhelm it. So his dimension, even though it's a higher plane of existence, it does have a limit to how much energy it can have. So when it has too much imagination and it runs wild and is too crazy, it ends up destroying it. And why did it run wild? Because the source wall, without it being destroyed, now everybody's mind is racing and they're all lost, confused. There's too many possibilities of what could happen. And when those possibilities create more imagination and more imagination, overdoes it and it destroys their blood, like he stated. And then he also went on to say that no, it's not a map to the fifth dimension. It's the higher dimension, the sixth dimension, which they don't believe that there's a sixth dimension, but there is. But yeah, it was mapped to the sixth. They just thought it was the fifth. As he goes on to say and explain more about the cosmology in DC, he says, "Behold, the multiverse as you live it. Puny heads exist in four dimensions. How now add imagination, which exists outside of time. Poofda, it's everything at once, existence backward, forward, simultaneously. Imagine this is the blood of the multiverse energy that flows between the realms until a unit which broke the source wall. But there is a sixth realm that at the very tippy top of everything closed off to all the most powerful few beings, like the multiverse's penthouse." So what is he saying? He's pretty much saying that he's explaining here a couple of pretty interesting and unique concepts. And like I said, the way they handle string theory in other forms of fiction and in DC in general is significantly different than real string theory. Real string theory is not... There's some similarities, but it's not totally exactly like this. But he said that the multiverse, as you guys live in your puny heads, exists within four dimensions. So like I said, they're kind of interconnected, but the fourth dimension is outside of it too. So the third dimension is space and like depth, and then the fourth dimension is time, which have interconnection, saying that the multiverse are two halves, space and time, space-time. So the fourth dimension will, you guys at the most, when you live in the multiverse, you're within the fourth dimension. So if you wipe out a multiverse, you're a fourth dimensional being there. But outside of it, is the fifth dimension, which is imagination. He says, now add imagination. So the third dimension is space. On top of that is time, which is the fourth dimension, and then on top of that is the fifth dimension, which is imagination. And he said you can see everything at once existing back and forth simultaneously, so throughout all time, which technically is kind of weird because in our world, the fourth dimension would already do that. You wouldn't need to be in the fifth dimension to see all space and time, but whatever. But I guess this is on a multiversal scale, so it does surpass that, but whatever. But it says simultaneously, imagination is the blood of the multiverse. So imagination, like I said, it's connected to the source wall, and imagination is what creates the superheroes. It's what creates the energy sources. Is what creates the life in DC. So for a character to get more powerful, imagination is necessary. These characters in these worlds are created through imagination itself. That's why the fifth dimension is so impressive, and so the beings from there are so powerful, because they have mastery over imagination. Humans can imagine things and believe in things, but they can't just control it. Whereas in the fifth dimension, they can not only imagine it, but control that. But then he said there's beings in the sixth dimension at the very tippy top of everything closed off into it, but the most powerful few beings. So the few beings, and the only beings we've seen is Perpetua, Monitor, Anti-Monitor, and World Forger. And Perpetua created those three, so she's pretty much the top dog there. And he's saying it's the tippy top. So a lot of people are saying, oh, how many dimensions are in DC? There's 6 dimensions. The highest dimension to we know, or at least from my knowledge right now, to date, is 6 dimensions. So we can say the DC universe is 6-dimensional. Now, it might be more compared to our string theory, because like I said, it's different. In DC universe, 6 dimension is the highest. In our world, they would be well above 6-dimensional because of, we go by smaller increments here. But he goes on to say, as they talk, he say, can you create a portal to the 6th dimension for us? It would take all my abilities, but the source wall broken, I possibly could. But if it's beyond our comprehension, how can we survive there? A good question, Wandy. It would drive any of you to mad except him. Yes, you see, over the years, I've infused you with the 5th dimensional energy that could protect you for this moment. For of course I exist outside of time. I am one of the 2 most powerful imps, and the other watches over Batman. Sadly, no space hippie. The happenings of the 6th dimension are beyond even my perception. So these are some really, really interesting things that we get here from Mixie Spittle. So he basically states that as Marshman Hunter has asked him, can you create a portal to the 6th dimension? He says yes, but it'll take all of his power. So to breach into the next dimension, to a higher dimension, he can do it, but it takes all their power from a lower dimension. And he said normally he couldn't with the source wall, but since it's destroyed, he can do more, but it's still going to exert all of his power. And then they said, but how are we supposed to survive in there? And he explains that there's one person in particular that can, and that's Superman, because every time he's interacted with Superman, he wasn't just messing with him, he was also imbuing him with fifth dimensional energy. And as he imbued him with fifth dimensional energy, it gave him enough power to protect him in the sixth dimension. So with his power and the additional fifth dimensional energy that he's been getting throughout all the battles and the years of dealing with Mixius, has made him strong enough to handle the sixth dimension itself. And he also explains the cool thing about him. He's saying that he exists outside of time, so obviously he's above fourth dimensional, makes sense. But he also says that he's one of the two most powerful beings in that dimension. So him and Batmite are the most powerful beings. First it's him, then it's Batmite. But I don't think Batmite's way weaker than him. He's just a bit weaker than him. So Mixius is the most powerful out of his race, then it's Batmite, and then everybody else is well below them. And the most powerful in the sixth dimension is Perpetua. So, as that happens, Starman stated, can't you just see what happens since you are above time and you can perceive, through time and all that stuff? He's like, no, dude, I can perceive the lower dimensions because I'm above your time space. But the sixth dimension, that time, I cannot see that. I cannot see the events that transpire there. So each dimensional area has their own time. So the multiverse has their time, is connected to the fourth dimension, but the fifth dimension also has its own timeline. It's just that when you manipulate time, usually it's manipulating, using the fourth dimension to manipulate the multiverse. But if you can manipulate time on a fifth dimensional level, you can actually manipulate, his time. But that would take a sixth dimensional being. And then there's also a time in the sixth dimension. If you manipulate that on a sixth dimensional level, you can do this and that. So we have that whole story about that. And then they go on as, we get a little bit more explanation. So what happened was, as he did this, Mixius Spilla created, what's the thing called? He created a portal to the... So what happened was, he created a portal to the sixth dimension. Superman went in there, but as he went in there, it was kind of a trick. So what happened was, Superman was supposed to go into the sixth dimension and find whatever energy, whatever they needed to, beat Lex Luthor. But as he went there, he fell into a trap that was set by the World Forger. World Forger created a pocket dimension or a pocket universe within the sixth dimension to trap him and imprison him. And he created a parallel universe or multiverse in the sixth dimension to show to the rest of the Justice League member to join him. And as he's there, he pretends to be Superman. As he's in his false Superman, he starts telling him some stuff. I don't know if we can take it 100% everything he's saying here, because he is trying to trick them, but I would take still some of what he's saying true. He says, right now the multiverse is flying through the void, and his question is where. What I'm about to tell you is known in the highest minds of the listen carefully. In the omniverse, when any of the multiverse breaks before its final evolution, it's sent back to the banks of which is created. Created by whom? Super celestial beings like Perpetua, who Lex is reviving as we speak. But according to the Martian key Perpetua, she was the rogue, the bad seed. She created our multiverse using the 7 unnatural energies. She tried to make something vicious that lived forever. But her sons, the ones that were known as the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger, altered the others like her to her doing. And she was forever imprisoned in the source wall, and this multiverse was remade properly this time, but now she's free. The goal of the multiverse is to achieve a harmonious form. Perpetua's goal, though, is to turn the multiverse away from justice towards doom, to turn it into a weapon and poison arrow aimed at the brethren. It must be controlling the multiverse of her to achieve a higher form, so you can judge the banks of the judgment, it will be deemed worthy. So what is he saying? He's saying that when these universes are created for like the omniverse, like the highest minds, they listen, they create and stuff for omniverse. But one of the rules are broken. When any of the rules are broken, they're sent back into the sixth dimension. So they're created and formed in the sixth dimension by, these creator gods, which is Perpetua and all these other guys. As they're created in there, then they're shipped off into the third dimension, which creates the realities, because the third dimension is the material world. So first, they go into the sixth dimension where it creates the ideas and the concepts and these possibilities for these universes to exist. Once when it's done, they send it there. But if it's incorrect or they break a rule, then it will be ejected from the material world back to the sixth dimension for it to be destroyed and then be recreated and then sent back out again. And he mentioned Perpetua. He said, but she was an evil one. She was the rogue one. She was a bad seed. She had her own plans. Her plan was to make this universe forever. Because usually they're supposed to change, and go through a cycle. But she didn't want that anymore. She wanted a permanent one. And they realized that this was not right. So they betrayed her, trapped her in there, as they imprisoned her in the source wall. And now she's free. He's like harmonious, and she's trying to pass doom. Because the fight is between justice and doom. Is to sway the people's mind. If the people believe in doom and follow the actions of doom, then she wins. If they follow and believe in the actions of justice, then justice wins. Doom will evolve them, but it'll make them predatory and just, conquering. Whereas justice will keep the status quo, but it will keep them harmonized and synchronized with each other, which is the good side. But it's important because to talk about this, because Perpetua herself created the what's the thing called, the multiverse, not by her own powers, but by using the seven energies on top of it. So she didn't just create the multiverse; she needed the seven energies to do so, and she needed this immortal universe and to get it stronger for help, because there's this judgment that she's going to face, and she needs this universe and this power to be strong enough to handle whatever this judgment is that they're going to be dealing with, so they can handle it properly, but we don't know what it is, and they do explain quite a bit later, but there's quite a bit they had to get through. So while they're talking to this fake Superman that is basically pretty much just the World Forger in disguise, as this is happening, Mxyzptlk is kind of going off, and he's attacking the living world, or not the living world, the third dimension, and he's basically destroying it. He goes on to say, it's far too late for the Sea Queen, it's far too late for everything. I warned you, Luther, his powers are incredible. And here I thought you were the universe's greatest living calculator, Brainiac. A fifth dimensional imp has no limits. Powerful as we are, the Legion of Doom can't quantify. Which Lex goes on to say, stop thinking in two dimensions, use your imagination, and think what we could do just for a sec if we had our own damn imp. So what is pretty much happening is World Forger was planning this from the beginning, and he got into contact with Mxyzptlk. So his plot was to pretty much bait the Justice League to come in there and trick Superman. So he had Mxyz go there. He knew they were going to go after him. As Mxyz, they picked him up. He was going to tell them that, hey, you guys need to go to the sixth dimension, or Superman needs to go to the sixth dimension because he's the only one that can do it. And once when he goes in there, he can find and help out. But that was a trick. He was lying. He wanted Superman to go in there specifically, especially first, so when he goes in there, he could be set up in the trap that the World Forger had, because the World Forger actually created a pocket dimension in there, and he created a pocket dimension for Superman. So once when Mxyz opened the door and Superman went inside there, he fell into the pocket dimension in the sixth dimension and got stuck and trapped there. And then while he did that, a fake Superman, which was the World Forger, came out from the other side pretending to be Superman from decades in the future, saying, oh yeah, time passed on pretty fast and quick, I just couldn't really do anything about it, and I came back, but I found a solution. You guys can come through the sixth dimension too, they come into this perfect utopian universe and multiverse, and he's saying, hey, this is what the future can be, and this is what we could achieve, and the sixth dimension is real right now, but we need to work to make this replace the one we have right now, because the one we have right now is kind of pretty much doomed, obviously. So that's what he had them do. So the reason Mxyz told Superman that he was the only one is so he can get Superman trapped first in the pocket dimension, so then World Forger can come out pretending to be him, and then bring them into the actual sixth dimension, which they won't have to worry because it's the control universe, and then try to sell them that this universe is the proper way and the only way to do it. And while this is happening, he has Mxyzptlk go into the third dimension and try to wipe everything out, because before he could replace the third dimension's reality with the reality that he constructed in the sixth dimension, he needs to first destroy the third/fourth dimension or reality itself in the multiverse to do so. So since he can't do it, he got Mxyz to do it. So Mxyz already tricked Superman, then tricked the rest of them, And then he went on his mission to wipe out everything, since since he's a fifth dimensional being, he's above the multiverse and can wipe out everything if he wants to. So he went there to basically obliterate everything while the Justice League members can't fight him, and then they left to there. So now the reality's getting erased, and when it's fully erased, he will assimilate the other one from the sixth dimension back to the third dimension, changing everything in the favor of justice over doom. And he's tricking them. And he explains why he specifically targeted Superman, because Superman does have an important integral part of this. But also, as we're watching this, Brainiac is like, it's a little too dangerous, don't you think? But Lex is like, hey, we have our own, which is pretty much Batmite. So he's going to get Batmite to fight him. But as this is happening, they kind of get notified by one of the beings in this universe, which was Martian Manhunter and Hawkgirl's child that they had in this world. And he basically tells his parents that, hey, look, this world is not what you guys think it is. It's a lie. It's BS. And he was trying to tell the rest of the Justice League. While he was trying to tell them, World Forger intercepted the conversation and came in as his Superman self. And as he came in as his Superman self, he basically pulled up on them to pretty much tell them, hey, you know what, it's pointless, I'm going to tell you. So he starts talking to him. He said, if this happens now, we then know me as the first son of Perpetua's brother, to call the ones you call Monitor and Anti-Monitor, the one who creates form from ideas and hammers everything into existence. So he said, yes. He reveals his true identity. He says, I'm her first son. I'm the brother of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. I'm the one who forms the ideas. I think of an idea I created, and I get my hammer to smash into existence. So whatever idea he has or concept, he thinks of it, he holds onto his hammer, and then this hammer is the thing that he uses to smack this anvil that generates and creates it. And he goes on to introduce himself, saying, I'm the World Forger, and this multiverse is my masterpiece. But no, this is Justice League. So he goes on to explain stuff. He's saying that this multiverse you see right here, I created this because I created all the other ones, but the other one is clearly ruined now and has broken the law. It broke the rules, so it's going to be destroyed. So I created this one to replace that one. And he's doing this whole ploy for a specific reason. But as this is happening, we go back and we see, Mixius as he's fighting two of the Justice Leaguers. One was Starman and then Mira. They're both attacking him, but they can't do really anything to him. As he says, he'll unimagine everything in existence. And as we see his power. It says time short, but we see as the speaker of the background is being prepared. So we see like a giant pencil being erased, and this is just the pencil of creation and DC creating, all these concepts and ideas and these universes and these characters. It's being erased, so then creation as a whole is being erased from the panels. But he goes on to explain, for the multiverse to be replaced, the existing one, but preference is for you to side with us willingly. The greatest heroes in existence side for justice. Is that what you become with us? Very well. Days from now, Lex Luthor will make an argument for doom to everything, to the living being, the moment, the being, and the end, and everything the multiverse and I explored. I explored. So what he's saying is right now is, like I said, he cannot bring this universe in there until the other one is gone. So he needs to get rid of that so he can replace it with this one. And then he's saying that, hey, look, Lex in the future, in a few days, he's going to basically promote to everybody the idea of doom and to believe in his concept and his belief. If they believe in doom over justice, then the tides of power and energy going to tip into the favor of Perpetua and give her her power back so she can come back full force. And he doesn't want that. He said, I explored throughout all the possibilities in the multiverse, and this is the only outcome. As they go on, it says, reality trembles in the minds of the attack. Mothers of everything strikes within her is the walking of a nightmare. She can feel it happening. The complete scourge of the actions being taken. The foundation of the universe beneath her is being rewritten from the sixth and highest plane of existence. So she feels that obviously the universe is being destroyed because she's now in the living universe, I keep on saying living universe, the material universe. She's in there, and she can also feel the energy outside of the material universe, all the way out into into the sixth dimension. So as this is happening, Lex pulls up because everything is being destroyed, and he doesn't want to get rid of this one. He just wants to turn everything to doom, because if it gets replaced, then he loses. So he pulls up and says, "It's maximum of doom, fighting with fire. How would we fight fifth dimensionally with your own?" So he brings Batmite there to fight him. As this is going on, we get a little bit more of explanation by Perpetua as she says, "You are the first being, the first children of a realm of existence, rent over the overvoid into flesh. I am your mother, Perpetua. I was sent to give birth to the bold new system of life of the greater omniverse." So what happened was they're getting more of a backstory of how this all transpired. So it started 20 billion years ago, and in 20 billion years ago in the sixth dimension, Perpetua was the only one there, but then she created and formed her three sons, and they were like, "Who are we and who are you?" And she went out to explain that, they're the first children of this new realm of existence, from the overvoid into flesh. So they were thought from the overvoid, brought into the sixth dimension, and made into having physical bodies. And she said, "I'm your mother," and she said, "You're birthed here for a system of life to create." For like the purpose of the omniverse, because the omniverse means just all, so it means everything. So there we have these other dimensions, but they don't have a multiverse, so that's going to add into the omniverse itself too. So she created them. She's a creating god herself, but she does need help with people regulating and governing it. So that's why she created her children. So as she created her children, now they are going to be taking up the mantle of the job, and they're going to be doing the work that she wants. As she goes on to say, it says, "It is a multiverse. Come see my children. It's precious and new. I have nearly finished shaping it in its beginning. Is it not beautiful? What purpose does a multiverse serve? I cannot speak to its purpose, though I will say I hope to please the source of our power. I have to make sure dynamic, beautiful, and striking." So this is now, I think this was like 15 billion years ago, so 5 billion years after that, 5 billion years after she created them, or I think this is just right after, but she's explained to them that I just created the multiverse. So at this point, it was just the sixth dimension and her and these other higher level of cosmic beings that we don't know, but it was just her. And then she created the children, and then she created the children, and then she created the multiverse with the seven energies. And as she created this first original multiverse, this was prior to the destruction of it and created the source wall, and then this, destruction of that multiverse, recreation of a new multiverse destroyed then by the Anti-Monitor. But this was prior to that. This was the first multiverse, and she created in the sixth dimension, and she created to be the predatory one where they had to get rid of. So she was lying to them, basically telling them, "Hey, it's great. I did this to appease the source of our powers, which is these judges from a higher plane." Even though they said this is the highest level of dimension, there's, I guess, a whole judging system outside of it or whatever, but she's saying she's trying to appease them because the council is important, but that isn't true. She was lying. She was using it to increase her own power so she can surpass them and fight off against them, so she doesn't have to follow their rules because she wanted things her way. But she goes on to explain the process, saying, "I've created our multiverse in a classic triumphant form, 3 realms made out of the 3 most basic forms of matter: dark matter, rich with potential; positive matter, infirm and constant; and antimatter, all destroying and corrosive. I have created you 3 for monitoring each of these realms. I call you Alpheus. I set you in work in the dark beneath creation. You may be a mighty world forger and populate all this, and that will ever will be. I call you Marnova. You will monitor these universes that rise into your world ordinary. You will see their development and prevent crises that may arise between. And you, Morbius, shall be his opposite. And Anti-Monitor, you will guard the boundaries of creation, keeping them free of life." So what is happening? She's explained their roles, saying that, hey, this multiverse is going to have dark, positive, and antimatter. So just like kind of like our world. So the dark matter is Alpheus's one. And with his one, he stays in the sixth dimension to create the universes. He comes up with concepts and ideas on what to do, like how she did. And as he does this, then he strikes his hammer onto the thing, and it creates them, and then adds new worlds and interchanges the other ones that don't work. And the Monitor is just there to watch the multiverse and see what happens, and try to see if there's any big crisis events, like when the Anti-Monitors strike. And he's there to catalog and kind of help out to stop these events and protect the people. And Morbius, at this point, Anti-Monitor, his point was not to just harm people. It was to basically trim any forms of too much growth. If there's too much life growing, it could be too dangerous. So he has to maintain it. So his brother maintains the growth of it and keeping them alive, whereas the anti-monarch maintains their size so they don't overgrow and overdo it. So that's what he was there, also to protect them from the overvoid. But as she goes on to say, I promise they will strike a powerful chord with emotions within you. Morbius, I have woven together places with the seven energies entrusted me. One oversees emotions in a full, vibrant rainbow spectrum. I promise you will full many things will live long, Mother. What troubles you, Mar? I understand your purpose on this would fulfill your own creation of the multiverse set on the course of this. So what happened was, as she's going on, Anti-Monitor's like, I don't know why should we care about them. She's like, you're going to understand to learn, have emotions and stuff, it's fine. But as this is happening, Monitor's like, well, Mother, your whole point and your purpose was to create us. It was to create the multiverse, but then to create us to add on to it and regulate it. After that, your point of creation wasn't supposed to be there. So that's also one of the other reasons why she went with this plan, because the judges that gave her the power now want to get rid of her because her children are going to be doing all the other aspects. They're going to be maintaining it, watching out for dangers, creating, and then controlling the size and the variable of it, right? And she's no longer has a purpose. She's there to create, but they all do the same job anyway, so they don't need her. And her thing is fulfilled. So even though she's a higher dimensional god, she has people above her and she can die. But she doesn't like this, but she's just not being upfront about it because, well, like, you know, why would she? So as this is happening, Monitor's a little concerned, so he pulls up on, World Forger, and he starts talking to him. He's like, hey, very peculiar. And this is like... this is 15 billion. I'm pretty sure the other one was 15 billion years ago. This one is 200,000 years after that, so around like 14 billion years. So he says, Alpheus, have you seen our mother? No, though I'm very busy at work at Forge. Each new life bursts forth with new possibility. I forge each possibility, though not all rise. I have created a pet of sorts to consume those which fall back in decay. So he's basically explaining a bit about his process, saying, I'm busy at work. He's saying each new life form bursts. Every time a new life comes in, there's a new possibility, so he creates it, because he's going based off of multiverse theory, where all of our actions create a new universe. So whatever actions we have, it creates it. So every time we have an action or a thought or something that can change create another universe with a completely different set of things, he detects it, and then he conceptualizes it, and then he forges it. And some of them don't work, and he says the ones that don't work, he falls back in decay, so they stay in the dimension, they just don't get set out. And he has a pet to consume it, which some of you guys might know is stated to be Barbados. It says, say hello to Barbados. Something concerned me, brother. Did you create this? No, brother. Work informs to me. Where did you find it? A fiction of Spear of the Gods and the Prime Universe, the center. So what happened was he came up to him to ask him about something in particular. As Woodford just talking about his own stuff, he said, I created this pet Barbados to eat these realms in here, which we know in the Black Metal event, he was the big bad guy. So he went from being a pet eating those universes to being doing his own thing and working kind of with Perpetua herself. But he's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. There's this new realm created. It's not a universe, but it's its own dimension, and it's the sphere of gods. And he says it's within the Prime Universe, the center. He's saying the Prime Universe is the center. So this is where the sphere of gods was created. First was the sixth dimension. They were created. Then the the other multiverse was created. He created Barbados. They created more other, universes. And then Perpetua, behind their back, since they were supposed to be doing that job, created the Sphere of Gods in the Prime Universe. So now he realizes, because the only other creator guy there is, his brother, World Forger. So he's like trying to check up on him and say, well, if you didn't do this, then who did this? Who would, do this? So he wanted to check up on him to see it. But then we find out it was obviously, what's her name? It was Perpetua who did that. So he goes to check up on her and says, I've searched all the beings in the universe for being so rich with potential and harnessing correctly. They were imperfect, so I bound them with the green being on the neighbor of the planet, merging their worlds entirely. They're vicious, dangerous, fierce predators capable of taking what they want. So she's basically explained that she's been manipulating and doing some stuff for her own reasons, and he's just trying to find out what's happening. And he says, but even if those are the managers of forms of flesh, each harness of the energies of creation and wield them, peer into the fourth dimension, don't see them as they are now, see them as they will be, as they were, as the last man warriors of civilization, already child and more important of war. Trouble you again are spreading across the speeds of great omniverse and observe something strange in the neighbors of the multiverse. This is a distract overstep of your function. In all of the omniverse, there is perhaps no greater sin than reaching beyond what you are meant to. Speaking carefully, I merely thought that acknowledging the guide will function my monitoring for potential crisis. Mother, are you preparing for resistance? I may have seen many other worlds conflict resist from fear. This raises the questions of what would make you fight and what would make you act. So the reason he found this out is he's usually supposed to only inspect the multiverse, but he started inspecting the omniverse in these other dimensions, and he found the sphere of God being created there, and he's like, what the hell is happening here? So he wanted to check with the first World Forger. He didn't do it. Then he went to check with his mother, and his mother's like, yeah, I've been doing some stuff. I've been manipulating here. I've been creating these other realms for this and that. And he's like, why are you doing this? And he's trying to find out. And she's explained a little bit, but she's like, well, why are you observing the omniverse? He's like, I was observing the omniverse, and I saw this strange neighbor in, like, the multiverse. What is it doing here? And then she's like, well, why are you observing the omniverse? You're not supposed to do that either. That's not your job. You're going beyond that. And she's trying to, like, shift the blame on him, saying, hey, why are you doing this? But in reality, she just doesn't want to be found out. And she's scared that he's going to find out. And it makes sense because they did trap her anyway. So, yeah, there's that. But he's like, well, I was just trying to see if there's any dangers outside of it, but I saw this and it's really weird. And he's like, but it seems weird. It seems like you're afraid of something. Something's coming after you. And there is something coming after her, something that's going to judge her, that she's afraid of. So, yeah, there's definitely... there's definitely a threat there, but she also goes on to say, I'm the mother I've seen implies some sort of cosmic judgment coming for us. So yeah, there's a cosmic judgment going to be coming directly for them, and she's preparing for it, but she's just not telling them. They go on to say that you have altered the core of creation into something it's not meant to be, because it implies that your actions will be judged poorly and you'll wish to fight back. Look at them, Miranova. See the hunger and their potential eyes for destruction. The judges of the source, they want these beings to achieve harmony, to hold themselves back and reach towards false justice, to earn their favor and ascend. These beautiful beings would deconstruct atom by atom, seen unworthy. What want we do my children to die from another motive? Is that your choice? I'm sorry, mother. So she's basically trying to guilt trip him. He's saying that, hey, look, so this basically is implying that your actions, they're going to be judged poorly by these beings. These beings are higher than us. They don't go really in depth on what these beings are and how they work, but they just judge them. And she has an overseer, and he's saying, hey, they might not like it, so you're afraid of that and you're preparing for this. And then she's like, well, these judges, they want us to achieve harmony, and it's dumb because this justice and stuff is just going to hold them back. If they go through this way, they're going to achieve more. And he's like, they're just going to destroy them. You wanted me to see to see my children be destroyed? And he's like, well, I don't know. But then he said, but are you risking infinite lives for the full, not to mention that you can overcome justice judgments? So then be it. Why should I die and let those damn fools that live on eternity? Darlings, show my son his unwelcome here. So now she's getting pissed off, saying, hey, why do I have to die? They're saying that my purpose is done and I have to leave. Why do I have to die? Why do these beings get to judge me and be above me and survive when I myself don't have that right? So she's mad about that. And at this point he realizes, yeah, she's gone too far. So he calls his brother and says, hey, we need to stop her. So as they go on, he say, is this necessary? Yes. We must tune in the frequency of the worlds within our multiverse. We must broadcast a signal out and inform the judges of the source of the greater omniverse of our action, and otherwise we reach the judgment. All of creation will be burned alongside her. I hope the course of this action is right one, brother. So he's basically saying, hey, we got to tell them. She's going crazy. Is going to be bad. They're going to punish us too, so we need to go and tell them beforehand. He said the frequencies, everything's out. This is not what things were planned at. And Anti-Monitor's questioning is like, is it really the best idea or the choice to do? He's like, yeah, we have no other thing. They're going to get rid of it, and we have to do this. But as they do this, they call him, and she's coming there to fight them off with her army. But as this is happening, it's too late. The judge shows up, and the judge is there to punish her. So we do see the judge as like this big bird creature and says, Perpetua, you defy your function. You twist the scales of judgment towards selfish gain and doom. This multiverse will be set right and you will be forced to watch as it grows without your guidance. This will be the prison for you, the totality of the power you have been selfishly hoarded. So this is how they beat her. They didn't really do much. They got into a little scuffle with her, but they pretty much just called the higher-ups and said, hey, I'm calling my manager. My mommy is being a little bad, and they came in to pretty much deal with her. So this cosmic judge came in as a bird, said, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this. You're defying our, judge, or what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to have a balance, and you're tipping in the scales of evil, and that's not a good thing. You're fucking up the multiverse, so we're gonna trap you and make you watch everything and screw you over, and she can't do anything against it. And the people that are around her are all the other giants and her people in her army. So all those people you see on the wall, those are basically just her army that got turned into stone, and then they trapped her in there. And this created the source wall, destroyed the multiverse, and created everything else. But while she was doing this, even though she's strong, she was hoarding power, as they said. So she was getting stronger as this was happening and transpiring. So she was getting stronger and transpiring and stuff like that. And then she also vowed to basically punish them for what they did. So this happened, and as this happened, it says it's a boundary closing us off from the greater omniverse. Every direction from our universe within this would be the final point. We must prepare for the final judgment. Everything is starting anew, a time without a trace of her dark power. I must return to the Forge. So World Forger is basically saying that now that it's created, they're blocked off from the omniverse. They're trapped now. They're trapped and stuck in the what's the thing called? In the sixth dimension. So they're outside of the multiverse. They can affect it, but they can't really go inside it, like how she was. So they're stuck now. This like barrier doesn't just block out the multiverse from the other worlds. These blocks us from the multiverse and the other worlds itself. So this is the barrier between everything, and it's trapped her in there. So now we can change everything, but Antimatter didn't like this. He said, do you know what this happened with Marvin? No, I suspect soon we will be reformed again, born again. You on Corridor and me on Oa. You must keep watch for our sakes. So now that this happened, they're going to be changed and they're set a place to their own areas. So the monitor is going to be on Oa, which is the center of the Prime universe, and the other guy is going to be having his own on his own planet in his own universe, which is the antimatter universe that we see later on when he comes back. And he says, "You will pay for this, Marvin. I strike you down in infinite worlds just to crush your neck in your hands. I will find you in knowledge I'll require, and should it take 1 billion years, it will be done." So he's mad because he basically lost his position and his power. His whole point was to, pretty much be you protect him from the overvoid and stuff like that. He's like, you ruined my position. Now I'm mad at you, and this is why he went on to his whole rampage with wiping everything out and adding it to his universe, going after his brother. And also, it kind of got retconned, that story. But then it goes on as Perpetua is watching, because at this point, we see Lex Luthor, she's looking throughout all the history, and she's explaining the encounter. She said the first crisis would spur another universe, another, and another. The multiverse would become a universe and a multiverse again. Her children would die and reform in many ways and be remained locked away for billions of years, and still they could not quell the message. So what is happening? She's explaining all the crisis events that they had, from going from multiverse to universe. Like, they had a multiverse and then went to universe, then to multiverse again, and then went back and forth multiple times with all these crisis events. So that's what's happening there. But as this is happening at the same time, Superman is stuck in the sixth dimension. He's trying to break free. He's been trying to escape. He's been depleting of power. And as he's doing this, he's trying to jump off. He does a press of feet as he jumps, and in a single bound, he goes off, and behind him, the planet shatters. The fourth dimension is time. So I don't know why they mentioned the fourth dimension is time, because he's already in the sixth dimension, but whatever. But he does destroy the planet that he was standing on as he jumped off, and the force that he was able to generate onto the planet, lunging himself off, destroyed it. But yeah, that's pretty much how he's still trying to escape, but he didn't fully escape yet. And as the story progressed, we see later on after that, the rest of the Justice League members were captured because they didn't follow the Forge's, plan and idea. Because he revealed that apparently those who were on the side of doom instead of justice were punished by being imprisoned in this like other dimension or other reality, where he basically trapped all the people that were evil or on the side of doom itself over the side of good as a whole. And as doing so, the Justice League, they were like, no, we're not going to side with you. You're going to basically get rid of half of the multiverse because they side with Doom over Justice, and we just don't, agree with that. And he was like, I don't care. This is just how the way you do it. And the rest of the Justice League members didn't want to do it, except for Batman. So the rest of them were set down in the dimension, together while Batman stayed with him. As they were set there, we meet Lois Lane, and she works for him. And she's been killing a bunch of Supermen, she said, because apparently every time that, Superman's been involved, she's watched countless universes being obliterated and destroyed because of Perpetua and the situation. Because no matter what, every time they try to do something, Superman would, try to find the most moral high ground when it came to these situations, and it always ended up failing. So the Anti-Monitor realized at that point that Superman's the problem and that he needs to get rid of him. So that's why he set up the plan and the trap to, get him in the dimension itself to, throw him off, because he felt like Superman was kind of like, what's the thing called? He felt like Superman was kind of like a pain in the ass. And since he felt like Superman was a pain in the ass, he's like, you know what, I'm going to get rid of you. And he set him up with a trap there. But while this was happening, we do see Mixius, Spitalik, and Batmite fighting still. As it says right now, the Mixius is unimagining the fabric of things. Once the crisis happening, the crisis anvil will appear before me and my hammer will light. Then I'll strike the anvil in this universe. Will descend upon the vanished current one. So he's saying that he needs to wait for this universe to be wiped out. Once when it's fully wiped out by Mixius, then he can set in motion, because he can't replace it when there's something already there. But once that happens, his hammer will light up, and then it'll signify to him to hit the hammer and then switch places. But they also still keep on going off saying the life energy of those beings who have a place here will be transferred to their future counterparts. We can only hope that the judges will not notice the time missing from our multiverse, so we can fool them into thinking we've evolved into this form naturally. I asked you about my role. We will be convincing your friends that this is the only way we form. My belief is after some time alone will they listen to you. So he's basically saying that once when the universe gets wiped out, it is messed up, but their energy and their essence will be taken from their dead bodies and then be replaced with the newer ones where they're in a better position and conditioning. So the only problem is, though, there's going to be a time skip because it's a more older aged and advanced version, which is the best way to for them to surpass the problems with dealing with Doom itself. So he has to do that. But he's just worried about that itself only. But everything else, he's got that covered. Once they're done, they just come back to him. So Batman keeps on going on talking with him. He says, your arrangement convincing enough. Your role is the leader. What about Superman? I'll come to see it. I left him a bit of suns to give him just enough energy to subsist. But he is trying to reach us. All other versions of him have failed, but yours, the prime, is possible. If he does, he will fight me, and we will all surely die. So what he's saying is that Superman, he's done with the other ones, and they've all died because Lois Lane mentioned it, but those other ones were weaker. The prime version is the most strongest and the most possible to achieve it. And he says if he does and he comes in and he interrupts me while we're doing it, because he needs them all to die. He needs all the ones to die. He can't have this one being here. He wants to replace Superman. If Superman comes here, it ruins his plan. The whole point is to replace everybody else. The ones that he does not want to replace, he's going to leave. The ones he does want to, in the dimension where they're going to be wiped out of existence. And the ones that he does want to have there, he has to replace them. So he has to get them die first so he can extract the energy. But if Superman comes there, he can't extract the energy from him. And he needs Superman's energy due to the fact that Superman's a big main staple in the multiverse, and the judges would notice. If it's smaller, insignificant other heroes, he can wipe them out of existence. But Superman's too integral, him and Batman, because of, their significant roles. And he does go and mention this, as he says, a special being Batman His cells contain energy after he perishes. I will be able to take his life force into my own future Superman form. But as I said, yes, your role as a leader, and the leader is hard. Superman will die, but this essence will live on and on for time inside me. So as he goes and further explains it to him, saying, "Hey, look, here's the thing. He's a special being. He's a special being. So I can't. He's like because the other guys are not. He's not going to be replacing their energy." He actually, he is going to be replacing their energy. They're going to be dead. But Superman is the only one that he cannot just do it like that. He has to have him dead. He can't just get rid of him out of existence, or do anything, or let him exist there. The only way that it works is if he dies and then he takes the energy. If he comes in and intervenes, then it ruins the plan. So that was his whole thing with Batman. And he also wanted Batman to basically side with him. He's like, he wants to know his allegiance, so he betrays Superman and goes on his side fully. And he says, "My whole life I was built about this decision, hasn't it? This is the truth is, in most universes, at the end, it comes down to the battle between you and him. You will win versus fate is happy, and in what is you both have a fifth dimensional inf assigned to you. Now choose." So he's telling him, Batman's like, "So is this how this was always designed to be?" And he's like, "Yes, you two are the most important integral parts. That's why he can't really do a lot of these other things. He needs Batman on his side and stuff like that. Luckily for him, Batman's somewhat on his side, so he doesn't know if he's fully. He just wants him to trust him fully. But Superman, from what he's seen time and time again, Superman is one of those people that he's not going to change his mind. He's stubborn, and he's like, this is not going to work. So he has to die. And if he doesn't die and he doesn't get the energy from him, then the universe cannot be replaced. Or if it does, then the judges will be able to tell, because he's a very integral part and they would notice it. And that's why they both have been given specific, imps, and the most powerful ones, because they need the imbuing of fifth dimensional energy. After this, he shows him his chair. He says, "Look upon your work, Batman, the Sunbox. This is a device I built to determine who would side with us on the league, so we could strike the first and win the war. Yes, the chair was built from Element X, allowed you to see people's hearts, but then you took it a further and imagined greater. You built the final bat suit around the chair for yourself, not just to determine people's minds, but to change them, rewrite them cell by cell." Now, this is him talking about his super suit. So he created this chair to detect anybody's hearts and minds, to tell if they are truly on his side or not. And that's how they would imprison a lot of them. And then he created a bat suit. And a lot of people over exaggerate the bat suits, and bat suit can rewrite reality and this and that. It doesn't do that things. All it does is it can tell the person's motives and their heart and their mind, and then sway it by changing them cellular by cellular to control them as a whole. That is it. So the bat suit, it can handle with some damage, but it isn't made specifically for fighting or for rewriting reality. It's just to change people's minds. It's basically a mind hacking suit. So after this, Superman is pretty much dying in the pocket dimension. As he goes on to say, the sixth dimension is the final realm. It exists beyond imagination, beyond understanding, a place where everything falls away except to the truths that we were never meant to see. God forbid your venture here, for if you do, will come strange to world to you once know. So he's saying that it's above the imagination world and beyond understanding. So this realm you don't really understand. Anything pretty much goes here. It's just limitless with what you can do there. But he's saying if you fall there, you'll just see the truth. There's nothing you can do about it. But at this point, Batman was kind of playing on both sides. He was working with the Forger, and that's why the Forger said he could see that he was on his side, but he was also trying to help out Superman simultaneously. He's trying to see who would win first. He's like, if Superman wins first, then I'll be on his side. If you win first, then I'll be on your side. But I got to give him at least a chance. So he does this. He lines up the suns to save Superman. Superman flies through and says he moves faster than he ever has, at a speed beyond physics, beyond imagination. A white-hot Stellus skimming over the dark red dawn. What is possible? It'll take hours for light to catch up to him, months for sound to sound, but from his approach he can felt across every dimension, his will, his anger. So this is one of the more impressive feats that we see from him doing, and that a lot of people talk about. It says he's moved faster than he is ever. So clearly this is why I had a lot of disagreements with a lot of people. A lot of people saying that I was stating that Superman got amp. These suns were different and they got an amp. I didn't say that was exactly the case. I was just saying that could be an argument, and it does make sense because he's gone faster than he's ever have. This does seem beyond what his normal limits are, and it is sun in a sixth dimension. It's not like this sixth dimension where anything is possible, it would just be normal, right? So like if you can make other possibilities of all these crazy realities, why not make a crazy possibility of a star given supercharging him, especially with that statement there. But it also is a little weird because it says he goes so fast that beyond physics and beyond imagination, like he's insanely fast. But then they also say that it takes light hours to catch him and sound months, which is still fast, but light taking hours to catch him, he would be faster than light, but it wouldn't be by so much, you know? Because people usually think of, oh, this character is trillions of times, quadrillions of times, quintillions of times. I don't know the exact calculations, but it doesn't seem that crazy to be like a few hours faster than, you know, the light. I don't know how that would make him faster than physics, but whatever. But after this, he comes after him, talks about about together we are the past and the present and the future. So he's thinking of his son, himself, and then his father. And then it comes in for the iconic shot scene where he's coming in for the punch. He's looking at him. He never expected him to come, and this is also a pretty cool shot. He comes in to punch him. He hits him so hard we see a giant explosion as he comes down to the fake Earth. He hits it, and then there's some shattering. They show some glass. It looks like reality broke, but it's just a giant chunk out of the planet when he hit him, and he knocks him down standing over him, which this is the one people usually mention. But he's still conscious. He said, what have you done? Your masterpiece, you destroyed it. You've doomed us all. You truly are the greatest villain in existence. Maybe, maybe not. Can't you all see there's no way to turn the multiverse towards justice in time for the judges to see? It was only this, it was the only way. So this is obviously, this feat has a lot of contention to it because I've had a lot of disagreements because we've never seen Superman being able to handle Mxyzptlk, who is a dimension below him, but a lot of people say, well, he still knocked him down. He was still able to move afterwards. He didn't take him out, but he did knock him down. But then again, he was like in the middle of something. But also people said he hit him so hard he destroyed the multiverse. Clearly, he didn't destroy the multiverse because the planet wasn't even destroyed and the universe was still there. And he still said, he said you destroyed my masterpiece. That didn't mean he destroyed the universe. He means like his plans, because then he later on says, now no way to turn multiverse towards justice. It's time for the judges. You'll see it's the only way. So he's saying that he ruined his plans. Now he can't do it. He can't replace it. And the judges are going to be coming and there's nothing they can do about it. So it's too late. So that's what he meant. The multiverse didn't get destroyed. But he did take him down with a punch. But then again, there's a lot of, contention on how he was able to, take him down with a punch, but whatever. But after this, Superman tells him, hey, look, we don't need to fight, man. Just work with us. We can do this. And he's like, dude, I can't do it. And he mentions that he can't really come into the physical realm. There's actually a part where he talks about it, saying that I cannot exist in the physical realm. My body will not be allowed to be there. So he cannot be in the physical realm for whatever reason. I think since he's such a high level dimensional being, coming to the material world will probably destroy it. So he doesn't know how to get down there without doing that. That's kind of a common thing you see in these tropes where these higher dimensional beings, if they go down to a lower area, they tend to be too powerful to exist in like the third dimension without destroying it. Even though Mxyzptlk can do that, but then again, he comes from a dimension a little bit below that, and also he has imagination, which is already connected to the third and fourth dimension, whereas the sixth dimension is disconnected from all the other dimensions, so I guess that's why. But as this happens, Batman says, there's one way you never explored. I could tell you your calculations, you're fighting with us. Fight with you, I can't. I told you my cells prohibited me from interfering, so remake your cells out in the world, aren't you all that? Oh, you leave me an option. So he's like, I can't come down there. I told you my cells won't allow me. It'll be too much disruption, and then it'll cause too much destruction and stuff. And he's like, it's too dangerous. But Batman just suggested, and Superman suggested, why don't you just change your body? You can literally change however you want in this place. You can change yourself and come down there. He was like, oh shit, I didn't think of that. Okay, I will. So that was pretty much the ending of his little, side mission and trying to change things through his way. He didn't win. Basically, Superman was there anyway, so even if he got into a full-on fight with him, he would have lost anyway. And he's not trying to be evil, it's just that he has a different way of doing it. So I've gone on rambling enough in this video. I'm going to just split this up into part 1, and hopefully by the next part, which is part 2, should be done. So yeah, sorry, I wanted to cram as much as I could, but there's just too much. The story is long. Like I said, it was over 50 issues in general. It's like around like 55, 56 issues. It's a lot, and there's a lot of pages, and there's a lot of context. There's a lot of story in it. There's a lot of feats and cosmology and stuff. So there's a bit of so much story that's hard to get through it by just, skipping a lot and skimming. So sorry if it's super long. I try not to make these videos too long, but it's kind of hard to do it. But my next video, hopefully it's shorter, and I should be wrapping it up by the next one. But after that one, I will try to make another video. The next video after the next one will be far shorter and be less that I have to go through, because there is something in particular that I only need a few things to talk about. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. So stay tuned for the next video. I'll cover the rest of this story and then finish their battle with Perpetua and the Legion of Doom. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.